Chapter 3543. Chapter 3543. Birthday 1. Chapter 3543. Birthday 1. Feng Wu said in a serious tone. Keep an eye on the time and Zhuo Qingxi for me. He's the main character today. And have you told Feng Sun about my plan? Little Phoenix patted its chest. Don't worry. I'll take care of everything. Seeing that Little Phoenix had agreed without hesitation, Feng Wu immediately went to refine the mica energy. After an indeterminate amount of time, when the fallen star sword shone coldly and almost shot up into the sky, Little Phoenix, who had been guarding Feng Wu, opened its eyes wide. It watched this in astonishment. The girl had to be joking. She had succeeded again. Little Phoenix had thought that Feng Wu was only joking. After all, who could make 3 breakthroughs in a row after stealing 2 treasure rooms in one night and forge a weapon with the mica energy? Normal people would never be able to do that. But Feng Wu didn't open her eyes yet, but she opened her mouth. Whoosh! The fallen star sword turned into a streak of light and disappeared into her mouth. You've refined all the energy in that box. You didn't waste any of it. Little Phoenix said to Feng Wu, who had just opened her eyes. You made the fallen star sword into a semi-divine weapon with that energy. That was unbelievable. No, she was better than that. Little Phoenix was raised by Mu Jiuzhou in his later years and had seen all kinds of things, but it was still shocked by Feng Wu. The girl was so good at dealing with pressure. The more critical a moment was, the bigger her breakthrough. If she has time, she can even become a spiritual overlord, Little Phoenix thought to itself. Finally, Feng Wu smiled. Little Phoenix asked, How do you feel now? Tilting her head, Feng Wu gave it some thought. I just feel that the fallen star sword is filled with spiritual energy and is going to destroy the world. Little Phoenix nodded. That's right. It really is a semi-divine weapon. I thought you would reach perfection in the current stage at most. Forget it. You've always been like this. Why can't I get used to it? Feng Wu cleared her throat. What time is it now? Little Phoenix said. It's almost noon. Get ready. It's time to celebrate your grandmother's birthday. Recalling how perceptive Mrs. Hua was, Feng Wu nodded and went back to get dressed. It was an hour later when everything was ready. There was a noise outside. Miss Wu Shuang, are you there? Feng Wu opened the door to find a maid outside. As soon as she said that, Feng Wu knew that she was there to serve Hua Wu Shuang. Because Hua Wu Shuang was in seclusion, the maid didn't dare to disturb her. She only knocked on the door when she couldn't wait anymore. Her name was Song Xiang, and she was a senior maid. She was in charge of everything in Hua Wu Shuang's room. Behind her were several younger maids. They filed in, trying to dress Hua Wu Shuang up. Of course, Feng Wu wouldn't let them do that. If they put any makeup on her face, they would immediately see that she was an impersonator. Feng Wu frowned. We don't have time for this. Let's go. Song Xiang said, but Miss Wu Shuang misses. Hua says that today is an important day for you, so you have to dress up. We were worried that you might be cultivating, so we didn't dare to come in. We were delayed. Chapter 3544. Chapter 3544. Birthday 2. Chapter 3544. Birthday 2. Staring at Song Xiang, Feng Wu asked in an authoritative tone, Are you saying that I'm not pretty if I don't dress up? Miss Wu Shuang was genuinely angry. Song Xiang's stomach lurched. Of course not. Just then, they heard anxious voices outside. Mrs. Hua wants to see Miss Wu Shuang in the main hall now. Her Majesty the Empress Dowager will be here soon. It was Ma Shu, the maid of Mrs. Hua. Hence, they quickly headed for the main hall. When Feng Wu arrived, she saw that all the members of the Hua clan were there, many of whom she didn't know. To be more precise, Mrs. Hua was the only one she had met before. Feng Wu reacted quickly and cleared her throat. Mrs. Hua asked, Are you still injured? Feng Wu nodded. I was in a hurry to get out, so my spiritual essence went into the wrong channel. I'll be fine after some rest. Mrs. Hua nodded. Good. Sensing someone glaring at her, Feng Wu turned around involuntarily. She saw a girl smirking at her. Feng Wu recognized her. It was Hua Wuji. Next to Hua Wuji was Hua Wuyu, and behind them were their parents, the couple from the second branch of the Hua family. Naturally, Hua Wushuang's parents were next to Feng Wu. Hua Wushuang's younger brother was a teenager named Hua Zichen. They hadn't interacted with each other before, but he looked like a malicious teenager. By then, a lot of guests had arrived. Feng Wu looked around and saw many familiar faces. Mrs. Zhou of the Zhou family was here as well. She also saw Mrs. Dugu, Lady Tao, Lady Li, and Lady Yi. Feng Wu counted in her head. Of all the important families in the imperial capital, all the ladies were here, but neither Lady Northern Feng nor the Feng clan was here. The noble ladies sat around and chatted among themselves. Seeing Feng Wu, a lady took her hand and smiled at Mrs. Hua. Miss Wushuang is getting prettier. I wonder which young man will be lucky enough in the future. The Empress Dowager wanted Hua Wushuang to be the crown prince's wife, which was supposed to be a top secret, but Hua Wushuang was so excited that she bragged about it to a few people. As a result, the news had already gotten around. The speaker was Lady Yi. Lady Tao hadn't heard the news. She looked at Mrs. Zhuo in bewilderment. Wasn't Zhuo Qingwan supposed to be? Mrs. Zhuo no longer had any hope for Zhuo Qingwan to marry Jun Linyuan. All she wanted was to kill Feng Wu. Her father-in-law had asked her to come, and Zhuo Ming had told her that Hua Wushuang was at least a better choice than Feng Wu when it came to Jun Linyuan's future wife. Hence, Mrs. Zhuo slowly changed her mind. She smiled at Lady Tao. I think only His Royal Highness is good enough for Miss Wushuang. Many people gave Mrs. Zhuo strange looks. Mrs. Zhuo knew that she had to explain, or the others would still remember Zhuo Qingwan's previous birthday. That day, Zhuo Qingwan invited His Royal Highness over, but His Royal Highness set off fireworks for Feng Wu instead. Many ladies believed that. At that thought, Mrs. Zhuo smiled. Qingwan is so focused on her cultivation that she doesn't care about things like marriage. I don't know when she'll come out of her seclusion. Chapter 3545. Chapter 3545. Birthday 3. Chapter 3545. Birthday 3. Everyone realized that the Zhuo family had given up on Jun Linyuan. No wonder Mrs. Zhuo was here for Mrs. Hua's birthday party. However, the look in Lady Tao's eyes was rather strange, and the outspoken Miss Tao asked the question directly. Mrs. Hua, is Zhuo Qingwan really not going to court His Royal Highness anymore? Miss Tao asked. Mrs. Zhuo's face turned livid. She threw a dirty look at Miss Tao. Lady Tao nudged her daughter. Miss Tao said, I'm only telling the truth. Last time on Zhuo Qingwan's birthday, she said that the crown prince would definitely come, but Lady Tao glared at Miss Tao, who stopped talking in frustration. However, Mrs. Zhuo's face was livid by then, and she forced a smile. Qingwan and the crown prince are childhood sweethearts. That's all. Nothing is certain. Plus, Qingwan is the future head of the Firmament Palace, and she doesn't have time for love. Everyone chimed in, praising Zhuo Qingwan and giving Mrs. Zhuo out. Only Tnin, IVRS. Luod come less angry. And she went up to Mrs. Hua and whispered, Her Majesty the Empress Dowager is still 5 kilometers away. Mrs. Hua nodded and said, Her Majesty is coming. Please come with me. Those who were close to the Hua family knew the Empress Dowager would be here tonight, but many didn't. They were shocked when they heard the news. The Empress Dowager was here. The most prestigious woman of the Junwu Empire had come to the Hua Manor to celebrate Mrs. Hua's birthday. Did she think so highly of Mrs. Hua? The Empress Dowager was a very difficult person to get along with, so only a handful of noble ladies here could talk to her. But because His Majesty was a filial son, everyone wanted to get closer to the Empress Dowager. The noble ladies' eyes lit up when they heard the news, and they all had their own plans. Feng Wu helped Mrs. Hua her feet. The Empress Dowager was very friendly to Mrs. Hua, but she wouldn't talk to anyone else. She then looked at Feng Wu. Of course, to her, Feng Wu was Hua Wushuang. The Empress Dowager smiled and asked Mrs. Hua, has Wushuang made some progress recently? Mrs. Hua took the hint and smiled. Ever since Your Majesty gave her the celestial spirit bead, her cultivation level has improved significantly. What level is she now? Is she a level 4 spiritual king yet? Her Majesty's eyes lit up. Feng was a little troubled. As a matter of fact, she was a level 8 spiritual king now. If the news got out, the Empress Dowager would probably be astonished. However, before Feng Wu could say anything, Mrs. Hua grabbed her hand. She smiled and said, she's indeed a... Suddenly, Mrs. Hua's expression changed. She wasn't sensing the spiritual essence of a level 4 spiritual king, but a level 8 one. Was she mistaken? Could her granddaughter be a level 8 spiritual king? Wu Shuanyer, Mrs. Hua stared at Feng Wu in disbelief and forgot to speak. The Empress Dowager looked at Mrs. Hua in bewilderment before turning to Granny Gui. Granny Gui nodded, stepped forward, and grabbed Feng Wu's wrist. Feng Wu had let her catch it on purpose. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to. A level 8 spiritual king, Granny Gui cried out in surprise. What? Everyone stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. A level 8 spiritual king. Were they hearing things? She was a level 8 spiritual king. Chapter 3546. Chapter 3546. A level 8 spiritual king. Chapter 3546. A level 8 spiritual king. Feng Wu covered her mouth and chuckled. The Empress Dowager immediately asked, what happened? Are you hurt? Mrs. Hua smiled bitterly. The girl competed with a girl of the Feng clan yesterday, and that girl was a little cunning and injured her. Feng Wu waved her hands in a hurry. Don't worry, I'll be fine after some rest. The Empress Dowager held Feng Wu's hand and talked to her affectionately. Everyone here was smart enough to know what was going on. Judging by the look on the Empress Dowager's face, they already knew what was going on. The Empress Dowager took Feng Wu's hand and smiled as they walked in. Do you like the bracelets I gave you? Feng Wu looked at the pair of dragon and phoenix bracelets on her wrist. They're quite nice. The Empress Dowager brought it up on purpose, as if she was worried that the others wouldn't notice. As a matter of fact, what she said worked wonders. As soon as she said that, many looked at Feng Wu's wrist. One look, and one could tell what was going on. Those who didn't know better asked around in secret and soon learned the answer. The bracelets were given only to the crown prince's wife. Her Majesty had never given them to Feng Wu, but now she had given them to Hua Wushuang. Did that mean, good girl? The Empress Dowager sat down and kept Feng Wu company. She patted Feng Wu's hand and said, at first, I only knew that you were a kind, smart, and virtuous girl, but now I see that you're a genius. Feng Wu had no choice but to play along with the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager went on. They've been saying that Zhuo Qingwan is the most talented girl with the true phoenix blood in the Imperial capital. What level is she now? Mrs. Zhuo came out in a hurry. She's a spiritual king. Mrs. Zhuo wanted to say that Zhuo Qingwan was a level 2 spiritual king, but that was nothing compared to a level 8 spiritual king. Since Zhuo Qingwan wasn't here, Mrs. Zhuo gritted her teeth. She's a level 5 spiritual king. She didn't dare to exaggerate, fearing that the others would see through her lie. What about Feng Wu? The Empress Dowager asked. Mrs. Zhuo said, she's a level 4 spiritual king. Tisk, tisk, the Empress Dowager smirked. Isn't Feng Wu supposed to be a genius among geniuses? Isn't she supposed to have the divine phoenix blood? She's only a level 4 spiritual king. The others didn't know what to say. At 14A level, 4 spiritual king was already a genius. However, everyone looked at Hua Wushuang. This girl was a level 8 spiritual king. Mrs. Hua kept staring at Feng Wu in excitement. She had never expected that her granddaughter would be so capable. The Hua family was going to rise again. Their future was promising. The Empress Dowager kept holding Feng Wu's hand and smiled. A genius girl like you has to marry into the royal family. Everyone laughed along with the Empress Dowager. They all realized that the Empress Dowager was going to marry Hua Wushuang to the royal family. But, Wushuang, what do you think of the crown prince? The Empress Dowager smiled at Feng Wu. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Damn you, Jun Lin Yuan. You really want to marry Hua Wushuang, don't you? Despite her frustration, Feng Wu played along and feigned shy tone. Your Majesty, what are you talking about? Covering her face with her hands, Feng Wu ran off shyly. Feng Wu kicked an old tree angrily after she was far away from the crowd. Chapter 35:47. Chapter 35:47. Matchmaking 1. Chapter 35:47. Matchmaking 1. Feng Wu ran out shyly, and everyone in the room laughed. Who would care if it was sincere or fake, as long as Her Majesty was happy? Meanwhile, one of them watched Feng Wu leave and smirked. It was Zhuo Qingxi, Zhuo Qingwan's brother. A dangerous light flashed in Zhuo Qingxi's eyes. At this moment, Hua Wuji walked to Zhuo Qingxi's side. No one knew what Hua Wuji said to him, but the two of them chatted and laughed as they walked out the door. Seeing them walking together, Lady Tao suddenly smiled and said to Mrs. Zhuo, your son seems to be quite close to the Hua family's third daughter. Many people turned to look in that direction. Sure enough, Zhuo Qingxi and Hua Wuji were walking side by side. Zhuo Qingxi was brought here by Mrs. Zhuo. As soon as she arrived, she introduced Zhuo Qingxi, who was a level 7 spiritual king, to everyone, so everyone knew he was. Mrs. Zhuo frowned. Hua Wuji, the third daughter of the Hua family? The girl who had a scar on her face and wasn't valued by the Hua family? That wasn't the standard of the Zhuo family's daughter-in-law. However, since Mrs. Hua and the Empress Dowager were here, Mrs. Zhuo couldn't say anything. She only smiled. Young people like to talk to each other. It's fine. Was it fine? The Empress Dowager hadn't really told them about the Crown Prince's marriage arrangement, so everyone had been pretending not to know. Talking about such things needed the right timing. They couldn't start talking about it abruptly. Someone had to guide the topic in that direction. For example, Lady Yi was a smart person. She was the first to speak. Mississippi Wushuang is getting prettier. She's doing great in the capital city. Lady Li also said, not only is she good-looking, but she's also a level 8 spiritual king. She's already so powerful at such a young age. What will happen in the future? The other ladies also chimed in and praised Hua Wushuang. Lady Yi stole a glance at the Empress Dowager. Just as she had expected, the Empress Dowager smiled like a blooming flower when she heard the compliments. Hence, Lady Yi, who was good at currying favor with authoritative figures, deliberately mentioned Feng Wu again. Everyone in the Feng clan says that Miss Feng Wu is talented, but I don't think so. If she's so talented, how come she's not as good as Miss Wushuang? As expected, Lady Yi realized that Her Majesty's eyebrows were raised when she belittled Feng Wu. She was so happy. Lady Yi had heard that the Empress Dowager was here to announce Hua Wushuang's betrothal. She hadn't believed it at the time, but from the looks of it now, she decided to probe around. If it was true, she might be able to become a matchmaker. This matchmaker was very important. The Hua family would thank her, and Her Majesty would think highly of her in the future. Even her husband could take this opportunity to. The more Lady Yi thought about it, the more eager she became. She covered her mouth and smiled. Your Majesty, Miss Wushuang is getting better and better. I really can't help but want to be her matchmaker. The Empress Dowager smiled at her. Matchmaker? Who are the lucky in-laws? Of course it's your family. Apart from the royal family, who else is worthy of our level 8 spiritual king? Don't you think so? The Empress Dowager asked, who do you think is suitable for the royal family? Lady Yi giggled. Who else can it be? Chapter 35:48. Chapter 35:48. Matchmaking 2. Chapter 35:48. Matchmaking 2. Lady Yi smiled. Who else can it be? Our crown prince, of course. After saying that, Lady Yi became even more smug. She observed the Empress Dowager's reaction and knew that the latter would be delighted. As expected, after she said that, Her Majesty smiled. Jun, the Empress Dowager smiled. That's a good idea. The others thought, what do you mean by a good idea? You've already given the bracelets to Hua Wushuang. Isn't this hint obvious enough? Lady Yi wanted to roll her eyes, but she only smiled. I think they're very compatible. Just then, someone in the crowd said, Isn't Feng Wu the Crown Prince's fiancé? The person stopped talking after that, so when the Empress Dowager looked in the direction of the voice, she couldn't identify who it was. Just then, many people looked at the Empress Dowager in confusion. The relationship between Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan spread like wildfire in the capital. The fireworks in the sky above the Imperial capital that day were still being talked about. Jun Linyuan, the sovereign, descends to the world. Feng Wu, the phoenix, soars above the land. Together, such a peerless youth and such a beautiful girl were as beautiful as a poem or a painting, but now, were they going to be torn apart? The Empress Dowager pulled a long face and glared around. The Crown Prince and Feng Wu are never engaged. If there's a rumor, it's all Feng Wu's doing. Which one of you believes Feng Wu's rumor? Step forward. I have something to tell you. Seeing that the Empress Dowager was infuriated, no one dared to say anything. The madam who spoke just now was also trembling at this moment and didn't dare to speak again. The Empress Dowager snorted. That Feng Wu has done a lot of harm. She's tarnished the Crown Prince's reputation. Lady Yi was also a little surprised. She knew about Feng Wu and the Crown Prince, but to her surprise, Your Majesty, so the rumors aren't true? Lady Yi smiled. No wonder everyone misunderstood. It's just that Feng Wu is a little close to His Royal Highness. Before the Empress Dowager could sneer, Lady Yi said, Then, do you think that Wu Shuang and His Royal Highness are a good match? The Empress Dowager had been waiting for Lady Yi to say that. She said calmly, I think the two of them are meant for each other. However, before the Empress Dowager could finish, there was an ear-splitting scream. It was a man's voice. Screams tore through the sky and shot into the clouds. Even the people outside the Hua residence heard it, let alone the people inside. The Empress Dowager was so shocked that she didn't finish her sentence. Mrs. Zhu's face turned pale. She was the only one who recognized the scream as Zhuo Qingxi's. Without hesitation, Mrs. Zhuo ran to the backyard. Everyone turned to look at the Empress Dowager after Mrs. Zhuo left. The Empress Dowager didn't look happy, and neither did Mrs. Hua. She was halfway through a sentence, but she was interrupted. Who was it but Mrs. Hua also knew that now wasn't the time to talk about marriage. She forced a smile. Your Majesty, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about. We'll soon know what happened. Before she spoke, Mrs. Hua had already ordered the nanny beside her to go to the backyard. However, the Empress Dowager suddenly got curious. She stood up and said, Let's go to the backyard together. Chapter 3549. Chapter 3549. Shocking News 1. Chapter 3549. Shocking News 1. Mrs. Hua had no choice but to go with the Empress Dowager. When they arrived at the backyard, they saw, in Hua Wushuang's courtyard, the door was open, and a group of maids and grannies surrounded it. At this moment, these servants were all dumbfounded. Their faces were pale, and they were flustered and at a loss. Seeing the Empress Dowager and Mrs. Hua arrive, they got down on their knees. Seeing this, Mrs. Hua's heart skipped a beat. What exactly happened? Just then, an angry voice came from inside. Zhuo Qingxi, you bastard! How dare you treat me like this? You know that I'm about to become the Crown Princess consort, and you want to destroy me. You said something about planting your seed in me and letting me take it in so that the Crown Prince will think it's his baby. That's all bullshit. How dare you say that Zhuo Qingluan was supposed to be the Crown Prince's wife? How dare you take advantage of me? Screw you. I'll cut off your dirty thing. I'll see how you sow your seeds from now on. You made me do this. Don't blame me for being ruthless. When the people outside heard this, their faces turned pale. Just then, Feng Wu threw out something wrapped in cloth. The thing went through the door and smashed into the Empress Dowager's face. The Empress Dowager couldn't dodge in time, and the thing hit her face, smearing her face with blood. What was that? The Empress Dowager was frightened by the soft thing. Thud! The Empress Dowager's eyes widened when the thing fell to the ground, and what was inside fell out. Before the Empress Dowager could finish, she fainted. Your Majesty! Your Majesty! Help the Empress Dowager! For a moment, all hell broke loose. In the other room, staring at Zhuo Qingxi on the bed, Feng Wu looked so aggrieved and angry that she looked exactly like she was almost violated. Hearing the noise outside, she seemed to be anxious. She hurriedly wrapped her outer clothes around herself and rushed out of the door. A large group of people surrounded the door. Most of the people's attention was drawn to the Empress Dowager, but many of them were still looking at Feng Wu. To them, she was Hua Wushuang. Hence, when Feng Wu came out, everyone was shocked by her appearance. At this moment, Hua Wushuang's clothes were in a mess. They were torn in several places, and she could barely cover her body. She had been slapped, and there was blood all over her body. It was a shocking sight. Mrs. Hua was dumbfounded. Before she could react, Feng Wu rushed out. If she didn't turn off now, she wouldn't have another chance. What if Mrs. Hua stopped her and locked her up? Not only did Feng Wu run out, but she also seemed out of control, as if she had been drugged. Someone stop her! Mrs. Hua shouted, and she rushed forward, but Feng Wu already saw her coming. Hence, and she tore off half of her sleeve while Feng Wu rushed out like a madman. Go after her! Mrs. Hua scolded angrily. If the Empress Dowager hadn't fainted here, she would have chased after Hua Wushuang herself. Just then, the Empress Dowager woke up. When she opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was Hua Wushuang frantically running away, and then she saw the thing on the ground from the corner of her eye. Mrs. Hua's expression froze. She had been so busy just now that she had forgotten about the thing on the ground. Return to the palace. Return to the palace immediately. The Empress Dowager was furious. Her face was flushed, and she was in a berserk state. Chapter 3550. Chapter 3550. Shocking News 2. Chapter 3550. Shocking News 2. Granny Gui gave Mrs. Hua a sympathetic look and followed the Empress Dowager. Mrs. Hua was so distressed that she tried to stop the Empress Dowager. Your Majesty, unexpectedly, the Empress Dowager, who had always been nice to her, was furious this time. The Empress Dowager glared at Mrs. Hua. Get lost. Having said that, the Empress Dowager left in a huff, followed by everyone else. They were afraid that if they left too late, they would be seen as Mrs. Hua's accomplices. Mrs. Hua was a thorough person. She knew that something was wrong today. She knelt down behind the Empress Dowager and said sadly, Your Majesty, someone must have planned this. I'll apologize to you when I find out the truth. In the past, the Empress Dowager would forgive Mrs. Hua for everything she did when the latter pretended to be meek and subservient. But this time, the Empress Dowager was obviously furious. Therefore, she didn't stop or turn around when she heard Mrs. Hua's words. She left in a huff. Mrs. Hua's heart sank. She knew what happened was unprecedentedly serious. After the Empress Dowager left, Mrs. Hua flew into a rage. Find out what happened. There were still many madams present. At this moment, they all wanted to leave, but right then, a tragic cry came from inside. Mrs. Hua had already rushed into the house. Qingxi, my son, damn Hua Wushuang. How could she do such a thing? Oh my God, the Hua family will pay for this. Mrs. Hua had a headache and walked straight into the house with anger in her eyes. The tragic scene in the room almost made her faint. The only grandson of the Zhuo family, Zhuo Qingxi, was lying on the bed. At this moment, his face was pale and bloodless. His clothes were covered in blood, especially his lower body. A part of his body was missing. It was really gone. Wasn't that the thing that hit the Empress Dowager in the face? Mrs. Hua was still hoping for a fluke, but when she realized what had really happened, she slipped and almost fell. "My lady," the maids quickly stepped forward to steady her. Mrs. Hua was so powerful that she could support the entire Hua family. She wouldn't show her emotions no matter what happened, but now her face was so pale. Shimo vaguely felt that they were in big trouble this time. Mrs. Hua gave her daughter-in-law a warning look. Lady Hua nodded and raised her hand to grab Zhuo Qingxi. But at this moment, Mrs. Zhuo seemed to have gone crazy and bit Mrs. Hua's hand. Lady Wang was caught off guard. Gosh! Mrs. Zhuo was so angry that she wanted to bite off a piece of Lady Wang's flesh. Mrs. Zhuo. Lady Wang stared at Mrs. Zhuo in disbelief and tried to pull her hand back, but Mrs. Zhuo wouldn't let go. The pain was excruciating. It was only when the members of the Hua family rushed up that Mrs. Zhuo was finally dragged away. Mrs. Zhuo looked like she had lost her mind. Lady Wang frowned. Mrs. Zhuo, we haven't gotten to the bottom of the matter yet. Why are you doing this? As she spoke, she hid behind Mrs. Hua. However, Mrs. Zhuo had lost control. We haven't found out the truth yet. Qingxi is lying here right now. How can you say that you haven't found out the truth? Your Hua Wushuang did it. Look at this. It's a murder weapon. Mrs. Zhuo pointed at the shiny dagger on the ground. Chapter 35:51. Chapter 35:51. Shocking News 3. Chapter 35:51. Shocking News 3. Holding the bloody weapon, Mrs. Zhuo glared at Lady Wang. Your Hua Wushuang did it. Your Hua Wushuang did it. Lady Wang looked at her mother-in-law for help. What should she do? The Hua family and the Zhuo family were not the only ones present. Mrs. Dugu, Lady Li, and Lady Yi, who were on good terms with the Zhuo family, were also there. The Dugu family and the Zhuo family were in-laws, so the Dugu family would definitely stand on the Zhuo family's side. Zhuo Chengfeng's daughter married Duke Li's family, so they were also in-laws. As for Lady Yi, she was a smart person. She had tried her best to set Hua Wushuang and the crown prince up, but after what had happened, that was no longer possible. Therefore, she immediately sided with the Zhuo family. Hence, all three ladies stood behind Mrs. Zhuo and glared at Lady Hua. Lady Wang felt a headache coming on. She turned to Mrs. Hua for help. Mrs. Hua's expression was extremely ugly. In that instant, she could already tell which side these ladies were on. They had sided with the Zhuo family. That was the smart move. The Hua family had only just joined the game, and they had risen to power in the capital because of the Empress Dowager. At that thought, Mrs. Hua knew that the Zhuo family wasn't easy to deal with. She softened her tone and said to Mrs. Zhuo, we still need to investigate this matter. Mrs. Zhuo, can you leave your son to me? Holding the pale Zhuo Qingxi in her arms, Mrs. Zhuo wouldn't let go. Mrs. Hua frowned. That part might be reattached. If that were the case, the Hua family and the Zhuo family might be able to reconcile. At that thought, Mrs. Hua stared at Mrs. Zhuo seriously. So please give him to me. Mrs. Zhuo had lost her control, but now she looked hopeful again. Really? Is there really hope? Can you reattach it to Qingxi's body? Lady Hua hurriedly said, my mother-in-law is a supreme-level medicine refiner. She taught Wushuang medical skills. Was that so? Everyone looked at Mrs. Hua in surprise. This Mrs. Hua really hit it well. If it weren't for this, no one would have known. The Hua family was incredible. Mrs. Zhuo gritted her teeth. You said it. You said you could cure Qingxi. You said it yourself. Mrs. Hua frowned. She didn't say anything. However, in order to appease the crazy Mrs. Hua could only nod. Yes, I said it. Hurry up and let me take care of your son. Mrs. Hua turned around and glared at Ma Shu. Hurry up and pick that thing up. We need to treat him immediately. It seemed that Mrs. Hua was going to treat Zhuo Qingxi personally. When Lady Yi thought of the treatment, she felt awkward in every way. But now, they only wanted to cure Zhuo Qingxi, so both the Hua family and the Zhou family deliberately ignored this embarrassing question. The gender of the doctor shouldn't matter. Mrs. Hua chased all the unrelated people out and began her treatment. Outside the door, everyone waited nervously. Seeing Mrs. Zhou put her hands together, Mrs. Hua comforted her in a hurry. "It's fine. My mother-in-law is a great doctor. She can revive the dead. Zhou Qingxi will be fine." Mrs. Zhou glared at Mrs. Hua and gritted her teeth. "If you can't cure her, the Zhou family will never forgive you." Everyone thought that the Zhou family still had Zhou Qingwan, but only Mrs. Zhou knew that Zhou Qingwan was already. Chapter 3552. Chapter 3552. Shocking News 4. Chapter 3552. Shocking News 4. Everyone thought the Zhou family still had Zhou Qingwan, but only Mrs. Zhou knew that Zhou Qingwan's ability had been destroyed by Feng Wu and was now lying in Firmament Palace. No one knew if she would pull through. Mrs. Hua didn't expect Mrs. Zhou to be so difficult to deal with. Seeing that Mrs. Zhou was in a bad mood, she retreated with a frown. At this moment, everyone was busy. Only Hua Wushuang's maid, Song Xiang, was kneeling on the ground and trembling. She was probably the only person who had seen the inside story with her own eyes. So at this moment, she was kneeling on the ground and trembling. Lady Wang stepped forward and stared at Song Xiang. "Song Xiang, what's happened?" Song Xiang was flustered, and her body was trembling. Mrs. Zhou was staring at her too, and so were the other ladies. Lady Wang said to the others, "Song Xiang is Wu Huang's personal maid. She's always with Wu Shuang, so she must know what has happened." The other ladies nodded in agreement. This incident was too sudden and too strange. Thus, he had to ask. Song Xiang said, "Miss Wu Shuang was injured by Feng Wu during the fight, and she hasn't recovered yet. She's been cultivating in seclusion ever since she came back. But because of Mrs. Hua's birthday and Her Majesty the Empress Dowager's arrival, Mrs. Hua said that she would ask Miss Wu Shuang to come out at the last moment. After she met the Empress Dowager, she could go back to her recovery. I did as Mrs. Hua said and only knocked on the door at the last moment, but I still startled Miss Wu Shuang. There was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth, but she endured the discomfort and went to see Her Majesty. Then, there was the birthday celebration. Lady Wang frowned. We all know what happened on the birthday. You don't have to repeat it. Just tell us what happened after Wu Shuang left the hall. The other madams nodded. Indeed, they wanted to know what Hua Wu Shuang had experienced after leaving the banquet. Song Xiang knelt on the ground, sobbing in fear. She said intermittently, when Miss Wu Shuang left the hall, she wasn't feeling well. She stood under the tree and coughed, but at this moment, the young master of the Zhou family walked toward her. Lady Wang went straight to the point. Was it young master Zhou who approached Wu Shuang? Song Xiang said, "Yes. I was a little slow when I ran out after Miss Wu Shuang, so I was a little far away, but I saw it with my own eyes. It was young master Zhou who went to look for Miss Wu Shuang. I wasn't the only one who saw it. Many people passed by. There was Dan Kai and Granny Li. They can both testify." Lady Wang was relieved. She told her servants to fetch the two servants. Then she turned to Song Xiang and asked, "What happened next?" Song Xiang said, "I was a little far away, so I don't know what young masters would tell Miss Wu Shuang. I only saw young masters were bowing to her and saying something that made her laugh." Seeing the frowns on the madams' faces, Song Xiang hurriedly said, "Dan Kai and Granny Li can testify. They didn't go far at that time. I even heard Granny Li say in a low voice, 'Wise young masters was so flirtatious.'" Mrs. Zhu's face darkened. The development of the situation wasn't what she wanted. She stared at Song Xiang warningly. In the end, Song Xiang brought in the other two witnesses, and then Lady Yi asked with a frown, Chapter 3553. Chapter 3553. Shocking News 5. Chapter 3553. Shocking News 5. Song Xiang said, "When I finally ran to Miss Wu Shuang, I heard young masters would say something. What did he say? Song Xiang said, I have a cultivation technique that can quickly treat internal injuries. Why don't we find a place and let me teach you? Bullshit, Mrs. Zhua kicked Song Xiang, sending her flying. Bang! Song Xiang's back hit the wall, and she almost fainted from the pain. Lady Hua almost lost her temper. What a barbaric lady. Lady Hua frowned and glared at Mrs. Zhua. We still need to verify whether Song Xiang is telling the truth or not. But Mrs. Zhua, aren't you going too far? Mrs. Zhua smirked. She's slandering my son. Lady Hua said, We'll find out if it's a slander. Mrs. Zhua, don't you want to know the truth? Speaking of which, Lady Hua was really pissed off today. It was supposed to be Hua Wushuang's big day, and she was going to have Jun Linyuan as her son-in-law. He was going to be the future emperor. But now, something like this had happened. Hua Wushuang ran out in a frantic state. There was an injured young masters while lying here, injured in a sensitive spot. Hence, no matter how patient Lady Hua was, she was about to explode. She glared at Mrs. Zhua. If you can't control your temper, please stay away. After that, Lady Hua went over to Song Xiang and fed her a bottle of medicine. She even asked someone to bring her a chair. Mrs. Zhua smirked. Let's see what she has to say. She had already sent someone back to the Zhua family to call for help. When the Zhua family came, they would get to the bottom of this. Ignoring the sarcastic Mrs. Zhua, Lady Hua asked Song Xiang, Are you feeling better now? Two of Song Xiang's ribs were broken, and her face was even paler. However, she didn't dare to say that she was in pain, so she nodded reluctantly. I'm all right. Lady Hua nodded, stared into her eyes, and said seriously, Go on then. What happened next? Song Xiang knew what Lady Hua was hinting at. She was a smart person and knew what to say. In fact, she believed she was telling the truth. Song Xiang continued. Young Masters was said that he had a cultivation technique that he could teach Miss Wushuang, but Miss Wushuang didn't believe him. She wanted to leave, but young Masters insisted on following her. I don't know what he whispered to Miss Wushuang. In the end, Mississippi Wushuang agreed and took him back to the courtyard. Mrs. Zhua smirked. What a chaste girl. Lady Hua glared at Mrs. Zhua and then stared at Song Xiang. Did you hear what young Masters was said? Why did Wushuang agree to let him in? Song Xiang thought for a moment and said, Young Masters' voice was very soft at the time, and he mentioned the Crown Prince. I think he said he knew what the Crown Prince liked. That was why Miss Wushuang took him inside. Lady Hua said, Keep talking. Song Xiang said, I want to go with them, but young Masters stopped me. He said that the conversation between him and Miss Wushuang was private. If another person joined them, the Crown Prince might know it, and the consequences would be unimaginable. Song Xiang said, Miss Wushuang is very concerned about the Crown Prince. She listened to young Masters and let me stay outside. That actually made sense. Chapter 3554. Chapter 3554. Shocking News 6. Chapter 3554. Shocking News 6. Mrs. Dugu and Lady Yi looked at each other, feeling that the Zhua family was in trouble because Song Xiang was obviously blaming Zhua Qingxi. Sure enough, Lady Hua cheered up a little and asked, What happened next? Song Xiang cried. Not long after that, I heard Miss Wushuang's angry shouts. There was also the sound of tables and chairs colliding and the sound of clothes being torn. Mrs. Zhua snapped, Bullshot. Didn't you say that Hua Wushuang was a level 8 spiritual king? Qingxi is only a level 7 spiritual king. How could he rape a level 8 cultivator? The Hua family is so vicious. You're unscrupulous. I've heard of Mrs. Hua's evil tricks, but I didn't expect the entire Hua family to be like this. I finally know what kind of people you are. Lady Hua's face darkened. Song Xiang said, I also heard young Masters threatening Miss Wushuang. Lady Hua asked, What did he threaten her with? Song Xiang said, Young Masters said, So what if you're a level 8 spiritual king? You're seriously injured. How can you fight against me? Lady Hua turned around and glared at Mrs. Zhua. Wu Shuang is seriously injured. Normally, a level 8 spiritual king wouldn't be afraid of a level 7-1, but she couldn't fight back in her current state. Zhua Qingxi has gone too far. Mrs. Zhua was furious. The Hua family is the true villain here. Lady Hua staggered. I can't believe Zhua Qingxi could do that. He deserves to die. Why didn't God strike him with lightning? Mrs. Zhua flew into a rage and slapped Lady Hua. Shut up. Hua Wushuang was the one who seduced Qingxi, and now you're slandering him. Lady Hua was also furious. Wushuang seduced your son. Huh? Who does he think he is? Is he good-looking? Is he a genius cultivator? Wushuang is going to be the crown prince's wife soon. Why would she seduce a piece of trash like your son? Wrath made the two of them lose control. They rushed forward and grabbed each other's hair. Lady Yi and the others wanted to interfere, but they were almost dragged into the fight. Hence, they fell back and only shouted, "Stop fighting! Stop it!" However, the more they shouted, the more ferocious the two noble ladies became. They grabbed each other's hair and bit each other's shoulders, fighting as hard as they could. Mrs. Zhua said, "Who do you think Hua Wushuang is? She's neither good-looking nor good-natured. Why would Qingxi fall for her? If he wanted a girl, he would have gone to Feng Wu. Feng Wu is 100 times better looking than Hua Wushuang." Lady Hua said, "Zhua Qingxi is a piece of trash. He's nothing compared to the crown prince. Why would Wushuang try to seduce him? You idiot." Mrs. Zhua said, "Haha, you keep bringing up the crown prince. Do you think he's your son-in-law? Has the Empress Dowager announced the marriage? Is it official? If there's a line, Qing Wan is way ahead of Hua Wushuang when it comes to marrying the crown prince." Lady Hua said, "I was wondering why Zhua Qingxi dared to do that. That he was going to ruin Wushuang so that Zhua Qingwan could become the prince's wife. The Zhua family is so vicious." Chapter 3555. Chapter 3555. Shocking News 7. Chapter 3555. Shocking News 7. Lady Yi and the others looked at each other in astonishment. They all recalled what Hua Wushuang had said when they first came to the courtyard. She had accused Zhua Qingwan of doing this to her for Zhua Qingwan. So that was why. That was how it was. Everyone looked at Mrs. Zhua differently. Mrs. Zhua was furious. Impossible. Qingxi would never do that. Mrs. Zhua was the only one who knew whether Zhua Qingwan was in critical condition. According to the Firmament Palace, there was a high chance that she would die. That was why Mrs. Zhua swallowed her anger and came to the Hua family to build a relationship with them. Therefore, she knew Zhua Qingxi would never do such a thing. But the others didn't believe her, especially Lady Hua. Songxiang struggled to kneel on the ground and kowtowed to the ladies. "I swear to God that everything I said is true. I didn't lie. You're lying." Mrs. Zhua didn't believe her. "I believe her." Lady Hua wouldn't back down. Just then, the gate opened. Everyone turned in that direction. Mrs. Hua had been treating Zhua Qingxi. Now that she had come out, did it mean that Zhua Qingxi had been cured? If that was the case, did that mean that the conflict between the Hua family and the Zhua family could be resolved? Lady Yi would like to see the two families reconcile. After all these families were on the same side. However, she realized that Mrs. Hua's expression was a little ugly. She quickly walked up and lowered her voice. "My lady, how is Zhua Qingxi?" Mrs. Hua didn't say anything, but her thin lips were slightly pursed. For a moment, there was a terrifying silence. Mrs. Zhua rushed forward and grabbed Mrs. Hua's hand. "How's my son?" "Mrs. Hua, tell me, how's my son? Has he been cured?" Everyone looked at Mrs. Hua with hope in their eyes. Mrs. Hua finally responded. She didn't say anything, but she shook her head. That meant Mrs. Zhua gritted her teeth and said in a shrill voice, "He's not cured." She rushed up and grabbed Mrs. Hua's shoulder, shaking her uncontrollably. "Why isn't he cured? Aren't you a supreme-level medicine refiner? Aren't you a great doctor? Didn't you promise me that you would cure Qingxi? Why didn't you? The corners of Mrs. Hua's mouth twitched. She wanted to say something, but she didn't. Lady Hua's stomach lurched. Something was very wrong. From what she knew of Mrs. Hua over the years, this old lady had always been cold and arrogant. No one dared to raise their voice in front of her, let alone shake her. Those who dared to do this had long been killed. But now, she was letting Mrs. Zhua do all those things. Something terrible must have happened, which was why the old lady felt so guilty. At that thought, Lady Hua took a step forward. Mother, Zhua Qingxi was the one who tried to rape Wu Shuang, which was why this happened. Songshan already said that there are other witnesses. If Zhua Qingxi can't be cured, he deserves it, and the Hua family. Chapter 3556. Chapter 3556. Shocking News 8. Chapter 3556. Shocking News 8. Lady Hua was about to say that it had nothing to do with the Hua family when Mrs. Zhua flew into a rage. She turned around and glared at Lady Hua. I'll never let you family live in peace before Qingxi is cured. At this moment, the exhausted Mrs. Hua suddenly said, My condolences. Wait. When everyone heard this, they were all stunned. Lady Hua was dumbfounded. Mrs. Zhua didn't know what to say. Her face was as pale as a sheet. Without another word, she turned around and ran inside. Lady Hua looked at Mrs. Hua in disbelief. Mrs. Hua had never seemed so grave. She looked at Lady Hua and nodded. Lady Hua was speechless. Did that mean Zhua Qingxi was really gone? How was this possible? Weren't eunuchs castrated all the time? Why didn't anyone die? Mrs. Hua, a supreme-level medicine refiner, had treated Zhua Qingxi, but he was dead. What happened? At this moment, they heard an ear-splitting scream. My son, Qingxi, wake up and look at me. Mrs. Zhua's anguished cry came from inside. She sounded so sad that it made everyone's heart tremble and chills ran down their spines. The Dugu family and the Zhua family were in-laws, so Mrs. Dugu was the first to rush in. She saw Zhua Qingxi. He was lying on the bed, covered in blood. His face was terrifyingly pale, his eyes were tightly shut, and his entire body was stiff. Mrs. Dugu went forward to check his breathing. He was indeed dead. Mrs. Dugu took a step back in disbelief. How could this be? How could he be dead? Mrs. Dugu rushed out and stared at Mrs. Hua. Mrs. Hua was about to leave. Mrs. Hua, please wait. Mrs. Dugu rushed out and blocked Mrs. Hua's way. She stared at Mrs. Hua with a cold gaze. Mrs. Hua, don't you need to explain what has happened? This was also what Mrs. Hua was puzzled about. Being a supreme-level medicine refiner, she was very confident in her medical skills. When Bao Er was dying, Mrs. Hua had been waiting for the last moment to turn the tide, but Feng Wu had taken advantage of the situation instead. I'll give the Zhua family an explanation. With that, Mrs. Hua turned to leave. She didn't want to argue with Mrs. Zhua, who had lost her mind. That would be too embarrassing. But at this moment, the Zhua family rushed in. Zhua Ming led the way, followed by the 15 spiritual overlords of the Zhua family. These 15 spiritual overlords were the Zhua family's last trump card. They had been mobilized from Jingjiang province, where the Zhua family's main force was located, in order to kill Feng. Zhua Chengfeng and Lady Wang had agreed to destroy the Feng clan and kill Feng Wu together. The two families would each send 15 spiritual overlords. That was about as powerful as all the tutors of the Imperial College put together. But now, when Zhua Ming heard that something had happened to Zhua Qingxi in the Hua family, he brought all spiritual overlords with him. When Zhua Ming arrived, he heard Mrs. Zhua's screams. Chapter 3557. Chapter 3557. Shocking News 9. Chapter 3557. Shocking News 9. He looked up at Mrs. Hua and instructed the 15 spiritual overlords, please guard the courtyard door. No one is allowed to leave. His wife must have suffered greatly. Otherwise, she wouldn't be crying like this. Zhuo Ming panicked a little and ran into the room. Hua Wushuang's bedchamber was now free of restrictions, and many people had entered it. However, now that things had come to this, no one could care less. Zhuo Ming rushed in, and when Mrs. Zhuo saw him, she cried and shouted, "Hua Wushuang castrated Qingxi." Lady Hua accused him of raping Hua Wushuang and made her sound perfectly innocent. "Mrs. Hua killed our son with her own hands, so we can't hear his side of the story. My lord, our only living son is gone." Boom! Zhuo Ming's head was spinning. It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck him, making him dizzy. How could this be? How could this be? He used to have 3 sons and 2 daughters. Zhuo Qingxian was dead. Zhuo Qinglu was dead. Zhuo Qingyu was dead. There was no telling whether Zhuo Qingwan would survive, and there was a high chance that she would die too. Zhuo Qingxi used to be his only living son, but now... Why? Why did all those things happen? The patriarch of the Zhuo family roared at the sky and immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. The Hua family. Master Hua, Mrs. Hua's eldest son, happened to arrive at that moment. When he saw this scene, his heart skipped a beat. Master Hua tried to help Zhuo Ming up, but Zhuo Ming flew into a rage and punched him in the chest. Master Hua was caught off guard and was hit in the chest by. He immediately flew out. Mrs. Hua reacted quickly and caught Master Hua in time. However, 2 of Elder Hua's ribs had already been broken. Without a word, Mrs. Hua covered his son's chest with her jade green light. His originally sunken chest was quickly repaired. Zhuo Ming rushed out and saw what was happening. He glared at Mrs. Hua. "You're a supreme level medicine refiner. Why didn't we save MV's son? WHV did we kill him? WHV?" Mrs. Hua couldn't defend herself. "Whether you believe it or not, I've really tried my best." If Mrs. Hua had known that she would be incriminated, how could she have tried to cure Zhuo Qingxi? She wouldn't have helped him at all. "What do you want?" Master Hua rubbed his chest and stared at Zhuo Ming calmly. Zhuo Ming bellowed, "A life for a life." Master Hua was also angry. "You mean you want to kill my mother?" Zhuo Ming stared at Mrs. Hua, who looked awful. What they didn't know was that a small bird was standing on a tree branch and looking at the scene with glowing eyes. Little Phoenix didn't believe it when Feng Wu told it that there was going to be a great show there. How great could it be? As it turned out, the show was awesome. Little Phoenix enjoyed the show very much. Right now, a battle was about to start. Zhuo Ming smirked. "I can forget about your mother for the time being. Hand Hua Wushuang over." Lady Hua whispered in Master Hua's ear, "Zhuo Qingxi wanted to rape Wushuang. That's why." Chapter 3558. Chapter 3558. Shocking News 10. Chapter 3558. Shocking News 10. How could Master Hua hand over Hua Wushuang? Zhuo Qingxi tried to rape her. Zhuo Ming smirked. "He's dead. You can say whatever you want." Master Hua. It was clearly Zhuo Qingxi who tried to rape Wushuang first. Be reasonable. Zhuo Ming asked, "Was Hua Wushuang raped?" Master Hua didn't know what to say. If he said yes, how could Wushuang show her face in public in the future? But Qingxi is dead. Zhuo Ming bellowed. Master Hua didn't know what to say. "Get Hua Wushuang back here." At this moment, Mrs. Hua was extremely angry. The 15 spiritual overlords of the Zhuo family and the 15 of the Hua family were confronting each other. A fight was about to break out, which Mrs. Hua didn't want to see. What Mrs. Hua didn't notice was that there were a few people in the crowd who looked a little uneasy. They were Hua Wuji and her parents. At this moment, they looked at each other and all realized something. What they did could never come to light. What about Hua Wushuang? More precisely, where was Feng Wu, who was wearing Hua Wushuang's face? While the Empress Dowager was there, all eyes were on her. Taking advantage of the situation, Feng Wu ran out of the room like a lunatic after leaving a few words. Soon, she disappeared into the crowd. Feng Sun and Yu Minji were waiting for Feng Wu in the carriage not far away from the mansion. When they saw Feng Wu coming out, they drove over. Before anyone noticed, Feng Wu entered the carriage with a whoosh. Phew! Feng Wu let out a long breath. That was close. She had planned it for a long time. It wouldn't have been so intense, but she had heard that Mrs. Hua and the old Masters Wu family were discussing the eradication of the Feng clan, so she made a more ruthless plan. After she got in, Feng Wu said without hesitation, "Take me to Hua Wushuang." Poor Hua Wushuang. She had been detained in Fallen Star Yard because of her fight with Feng Wu. After she was detained, Feng Wu drugged her. Hua Wushuang was so dizzy that all her memories were jumbled up. What Feng Wu wanted was Hua Wushuang in this state. Feng Sun was so anxious that he kept asking, "How did it go? Tell me. I'm so worried." Yu Minji had the same anxious look on his face. Feng Wu smiled mysteriously. Feng Sun patted Feng Wu on the shoulder. "You naughty girl, we've been so anxious. Tell us what happened." Feng Wu smiled. "Everything is under control." Feng Wu smiled mysteriously as she told them everything about how she had set up Hua Wushuang and Zhuo Qingxi. "Oh my God!" Feng Sun cried out. "Oh my God, you're amazing. That's great." Yu Minji's eyes lit up. "Did you really cut his thing off?" Feng Wu asked. "Of course I did." Feng Sun was speechless. Yu Minji covered his crotch with both hands and stared at her nervously. Feng Wu snickered. "I was far away. I just flicked the tip of my sword, and Zhuo Qingxi fell to the ground. I wasn't going to do it, but Mrs. Hua and that old man were so mean that they wanted to destroy the Feng clan." "What's that all about?" Feng Sun frowned. Feng Wu told them what she had heard. Chapter 35:59. Chapter 35:59. Shocking News 11. Chapter 35:59. Shocking News 11. Damn it. That's unbelievable. What did you do wrong? What did the Feng clan do wrong? How dare they do whatever they want just because their families are so powerful? They kill people as easily as they kill ants. I hate the Hua family. Yu Minji was furious. Feng Wu said, "Don't worry. The two families are fighting each other now. I'm afraid they won't be able to hunt me down for a long time." Yu Minji said, "But if Zhuo Qingxi only gets castrated, I'm afraid it won't be enough to turn the two families against each other. Someone will have to die." Feng Sun nodded. "If it were me, I'd kill Zhuo Qingxi in the Hua manner." Feng Wu nodded. Feng Sun said, "What do you mean by that?" Feng Wu said, "It's just as you suggested." Feng Sun asked, "What did I suggest?" Feng Wu looked at him innocently. "That old lady from the Hua family is a supreme-level medicine refiner that no one knows about. Other people might not know this, but I could tell right away when I stole their treasures. There are plenty of supreme-level herbs there, so..." Both Feng Sun and Yu Minji looked at Feng Wu in confusion. "So what?" Feng Wu said, "So what would you do if you were me?" Feng Sun and Yu Minji rested their chins on their hands and shook their heads. "I don't know." Feng Wu said, "I put something in his wound, of course. When Mrs. Hua treated him, he bled profusely. In the end, he died at Mrs. Hua's hands." Yu Minji and Feng Sun looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. "Oh my God, this girl, what was her brain made of? How could she be so smart? It would be great if the plan was carried out. The Hua family and the Zhuo family would really fight each other, and it would be a blood feud that could never be resolved. But will it really be like this? Won't something go wrong?" Both Feng Sun and Yu Minji had the same thought. Feng Wu's idea was excellent. It was amazing. Feng Wu pricked up her ears. Feng Sun and Yu Minji exchanged a look. What was she listening to? Suddenly, Feng Wu smiled and looked at Feng Sun and Yu Minji. "It worked." "What worked?" Feng Wu said, "It's going according to the plan. Zhuo Qingxi died in Mrs. Hua's hands. Zhuo Ming is confronting the Hua family with his 15 spiritual overlords." "Oivik, whoa!" Feng Sun and Yu Minji cried out in surprise. They were thrilled. "I never thought I'd live to see this day. You've screwed the Zhuo family over this time. Xiao Wu, do you know that Zhuo Qingxi is the only child in the Zhuo family right now. You've made sure that the Zhuo family doesn't have any descendants. Feng Sun was shocked. He didn't believe Feng Wu when she told him that she had a plan. She wasn't a spiritual overlord yet. What could she do? But as it turned out, Feng Wu had dragged two powerful families into a quagmire right away, and they were going to fight to the death. Don't they still have Zhuo Qingwan? Yu Minji asked curiously. Feng Sun said smugly, Xiao Wu destroyed Zhuo Qingwan's true phoenix blood, and she was barely breathing when the Firmament Palace took her away. She won't be able to find another true phoenix blood, so she's crippled for good. Chapter 3560. Chapter 3560. Shocking News 12. Chapter 3560. Shocking News 12. Yu Minji gave Feng Wu a thumbs up. My little wife is amazing. Whose wife is she? I'll slap you if you keep talking nonsense. Feng Sun smacked Yu Mingbi on the head. Rubbing his head, Yu Minji glared at Feng Sun. Hey, you're not even in the spiritual overlord stage. Are you trying to provoke me? Screw you. Feng Sun was so frustrated that he didn't know what to say. Was Yu Minji born to piss him off? Seeing that the two of them were about to argue again, Feng Wu was speechless. She quickly changed the subject. By the way, how's Hua? Wu Shuang, have you been brainwashing her? As a semi-divine medicine refiner, Feng Wu had plenty of incredible potions. For example, she modified the psychedelic drug and turned it into a brainwashing potion. They drug Hua Wushuang until the latter almost had a nervous breakdown. After that, they kept brainwashing Hua Wushuang so that Hua Wushuang believed that Zhuo Qingxi wanted to rape her to ruin her engagement with Jun Linyuan. Just like that, they brainwashed Hua Wushuang over and over again. Don't worry about that. Yu Minji patted his chest. I've been brainwashing her every 2 hours. I guarantee that she bought that story. Apart from killing Zhuo Qingxi and the Zhuo family, she won't have any other thoughts. Feng Wu nodded. The drug was so powerful that it almost felt wrong to use it. If the Zhuo family and the Hua family hadn't joined forces to destroy the Feng clan, Feng Wu wouldn't have used it. Just then, there was a commotion outside. What's going on? Feng Wu frowned. The driver was one of Yu Minji's elders. It's the elders of the Hua family. They're looking for someone everywhere. It's probably Hua Wushuang. The carriage is blocked. We're stopped here. We can't get through. They've blocked every street entrance. Every carriage is being searched. Feng Wu hadn't expected the Hua family to be so fast. As they spoke, the Hua family search party happened to come over. The person in the lead was Aunt Shi. Aunt Shi was a spiritual overlord. It was as if she sensed something because her first reaction was to guard the path that led to the Feng clan. Get out of the carriage. The person beside Aunt Shi shouted angrily. Yu Minji's elder smirked. Even His Majesty wouldn't be so rude to us. Who do you think you are? Do you want to die? The elder lashed out with his whip. He was also a spiritual overlord. The whip almost hit Aunt Shi in the face. Immediately, Aunt Shi's face darkened. Is young Master Yu Minji of the Dark Dynasty in the carriage? Aunt Shi suppressed her temper and asked nicely. Yu Minji snorted. Aunt Shi bowed and said, Young Master Yu, I'm really sorry. An important person of the Flower Valley is missing, so we set up checkpoints on the way. Since it's your carriage, feel free to get through. Feel free. Yu Minji smirked. She was indeed afraid of him. He was about to tell his elder to start the carriage when Feng Wu shook her head. If they don't see the inside clearly, they'll keep suspecting you. It's not a good thing to be suspected, because the Hua family and the Zhuo family will probably drag other people into their conflict, and the Dark Dynasty can be useful. Feng Wu shook her head. You too, get out of the carriage. Yu Minji said, but, out. Feng Wu frowned and looked serious. As soon as Feng Wu became serious, Yu Minji behaved like a puppy and said obediently, All right. Chapter 3561. Chapter 3561. Shocking News 13. Chapter 3561. Shocking News 13. Feng Sun dragged Yu Minji out of the carriage. Feng Sun knew that Feng Wu must have a solution. The girl was never sure of ideas. After chasing out of the carriage, Yu Minji was displeased to see Aunt Shi. How dare you? Do you think I'm hiding a criminal in my car? Come on, let's find out. Yu Minji swaggered over to Aunt Shi. Aunt Shi naturally revered the heir of the Dark Dynasty. I wouldn't dare. Why wouldn't you? You've made us get out of the carriage. Why wouldn't you search for it? Crossing his arms, Feng Sun smirked. Young Lord Feng, Aunt Shi said lightly. Feng Sun said, let's get it over with. We still have things to do. Aunt Shi stared at the carriage. The curtains were closed, so it was difficult for her to see what was inside. She suddenly asked, Young masters, where are you going? Feng Sun smirked. Why? Is the Hua family interfering with Northern Feng Mansion? Do I have to be interrogated on where I'm going? And she didn't dare provoke Feng Sun. She could only change her question. I wonder if you've seen Miss Wu Shuang. Yu Minji raised an eyebrow. Who's that? I've never heard of or seen her before. What do you mean? You're not accusing me of being involved with her, are you? Let me tell you, I'm the only heir of the Dark Dynasty. You can't force me to marry someone from your family. I don't want her. And she was so angry that the blue veins on her forehead throbbed. How could such an unreasonable person be the only heir of the Dark Dynasty? Young master, you, please don't make fun of me. And she gritted her teeth. She was a spiritual overlord, yet she was being mocked like this. She felt that her pride had been trampled on the ground. Yu Minji said, I'm not kidding. I'm very serious. We're already out of the carriage. Why? Are you still not going to let us go? Aunt Shi, I wouldn't dare, but... Yu Minji stared at Aunt Shi. He was a powerful spiritual overlord, and he had a noble status. That was why Yu Minji looked scary when he was displeased. Aunt Shi, it's just... Young master, you, I'm begging you. Just then, an impatient voice came from inside the carriage. Yu Minji, what are you doing out there? Are we leaving or not? A pair of fair, slender hands lifted the curtain, and a slender girl walked out. The girl was beautiful beyond description. It was none other than Feng Wu herself. When Feng Wu lifted the curtain, Aunt Shi stared at the carriage. She saw Feng Wu and the empty carriage behind her. No one could hide inside. Hua Wushuang wasn't there. Feng Wu frowned when she saw Aunt Shi. Aren't you Hua Wushuang's nanny? You were with her when she challenged me. Aunt Shi's eyebrows twitched when she saw Feng Wu. Yes, she replied coldly. Feng Wu said, what's this? Are you stopping us from going that way? Do you own this road? Aunt Shi's face turned livid at Feng Wu's rebuke, but she didn't want to lose her temper. In the end, she stepped aside and said, Miss Feng Wu, please. Feng Wu frowned at her and went back to the carriage. Yu Minji followed her in a hurry. Chapter 3562. Chapter 3562. Shocking News 14. Chapter 3562. Shocking News 14. She's guarding the path leading to our Feng clan. Perhaps she's targeting you. Feng Sun had a headache. What did he mean by our Feng clan? Yu Minji was such a narcissist that he didn't know when to stop. Feng Sun kicked him. Watch your mouth. Yu Minji turned around and glared at him. What's wrong? I treat the Feng clan like my own family. What's wrong with that? Feng Sun said, shut up. Just then, Aunt Shi said, Miss Feng Wu. Feng Wu stopped and turned to look at Aunt Shi. Aunt Shi stared at Feng Wu, trying to figure out her strength. However, Feng Wu had the concealing jade. When Feng Wu wanted people to know how strong she was, she would put away the concealing jade, and when she didn't want people to know, she would put it on. Therefore, Aunt Shi couldn't see Feng Wu's cultivation level. Aunt Shi stared at Feng Wu. I wonder how strong Miss Feng Wu is now. Miss Wu Shuang is a level 8 spiritual king now. Aunt Shi tried to read Feng Wu's expression, but Feng Wu was as calm as ever. She nodded and said, congratulations. Aunt Shi stared at Feng Wu. Miss Feng Wu, did you see Miss Wu Shuang today? Feng Wu frowned. Is she missing? Aunt Shi was speechless. Feng Wu said, she's become a level 8 spiritual king, but she's missing. It's been a few days since she competed with me. Why? Does the Hua family want to blame me for Hua Wushuang's disappearance? And she said, Of course not. Feng Wu nodded. That's good. If you do, I don't mind going to His Majesty for help. And she couldn't help but think about what had happened between Duke Li and the Feng clan. It was obvious that His Majesty was biased toward Feng Wu. As Feng Wu and Aunt Shi talked, more and more people gathered around them. Feng Wu asked curiously, What's wrong with Hua Wushuang? Why is she suddenly missing? Did she elope with someone? Yu Minji cried out. Aunt Shi's expression was extremely ugly. If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have provoked Feng Wu. This girl wasn't someone to be trifled with. Aunt Shi didn't want the news of Hua Wushuang and Zhua Qingxi to get out because it would affect the reputation of the Hua family. In the end, Aunt Shi had no choice but to let Feng Wu and the others go. Fallen Star Yard. Yu Minji gloated. Oh my, I'm dying of laughter. Actually, Aunt Shi has caught the real culprit, but she just let us go. Feng Sun darted at him with a dirty look. Things are still at a stalemate. It's not over yet. Xiao Wu is still in danger. After a pause, Feng Sun frowned again. I think it's even more dangerous now. Yu Minji was shocked. You're making things up. Feng Sun said, I'm not. I'm talking about human nature. If I were Mrs. Hua, and the two families are fighting right now, what should I do? Yu Minji asked, What should you do? Feng Sun said, They used to be an alliance, so this is an internal conflict between them. Since they can't resolve it, they'll turn it into an external conflict. That way, they'll be united against the common enemy, right? Yu Minji's heart skipped a beat. You mean? Chapter 3563. Chapter 3563. Shocking News 15. Chapter 3563. Shocking News 15. Feng Sun said, It's obvious that this Wu family has been set up. If I were Mrs. Hua, I'd say that Hua Wushuang didn't do it. If everyone says that they saw it, she'll say that Hua Wushuang was impersonated. Yu Minji said, Holy crap. Don't scare me. Feng Sun paced around the room anxiously and said, I hope it's not true, but why am I so flustered? You've never met the old lady of the Hua family, so you don't know what she's like. I've seen her before. She's like a viper with a kind smile. She'll fabricate evidence and say that Xiao Wu has disguised herself as Hua Wushuang. Then, she'll kill Feng Wu and everyone else in the Feng clan with that excuse. Yu Minji said, although he didn't want to believe it, he somehow had a feeling that it was about to happen. At that thought, Yu Minji started running. He rushed into the inner courtyard. Xiao Wu. Yu Minji found a remote woodshed where they kept Hua Wushuang. Feng Wu put on the jade bracelets for Hua Wushuang, gave the latter a few shallow cuts, and dressed her in the bloody clothes. Hua Wushuang now looked the same as when Feng Wu rushed out of the Hua family. It was also what Feng Wu looked like when she rushed into the carriage. Yu Minji led Feng Wu out. Feng Wu looked at him in confusion. What's wrong? Yu Minji said, You've gone too far this time. Do you know? Yu Minji told Feng Wu what Feng Sun had told him and said in a serious tone. Not only isn't the situation getting better, but the Hua family has also been given an excuse. Xiao Wu, don't panic. I'll take responsibility for this. As long as I'm alive, you won't be alone. Feng Wu looked at Yu Minji in surprise. Although Yu Minji was a silly boy, his concern for her was real. Feng Wu smiled. Don't worry. How can I take precautions in advance? How can it be a miracle if I don't have some trump cards? Yu Minji's eyes widened. So you had a plan? You knew from the beginning what Mrs. Hua would do at this point. Feng Wu nodded. If I hadn't expected it, I wouldn't have challenged her. There's no one to back me up. Yu Minji said in frustration. Yes, there is. At least, there's me. Feng Wu smiled. Got it. You're there for me. Like an innocent child, Yu Minji was delighted again. What about your trump card? Feng Wu pointed at the girl in front of her. Hua Wushuang? What kind of trump card is she? How are you going to use? At this moment, Hua Wushuang was in a daze. She was in a psychedelic state and looked like she was suffering from qi deviation. Feng Wu smiled. How can a trump card be called a trump card if you know what it is? Feng Sun arrived at that moment. Feng Wu waved at him and whispered something in his ear. Feng Sun nodded and carried Hua Wuxuang out. Yu Minji was a little jealous. What about me? What can I do for you? Chapter 3564. Chapter 3564. Shocking News, 16. Chapter 3564. Shocking News, 16. Yu Minji was a little jealous. What about me? What can I do for you? After some thought, Feng Wu said to Yu Minji, why don't you do it? Feng Sun can stay here and cultivate. Yu Minji said, no problem. But what can he achieve in such a short time? Is he going to become a spiritual overlord? Don't make me laugh. Before Feng Wu could say anything, Yu Minji waved at her. I'm off. He carried Hua Wuxuang, who was in a daze, out of the door. Feng Sun looked at Feng Wu in confusion. Actually, Yu Minji is right. If I stay here and cultivate, I won't be able to achieve anything in a short time. I might as well. Feng Wu opened her hand and took out a few purple crystals. Feng Sun said, that's... Holy crap. Don't tell me they're blood source crystals. You have them. The blood source crystal was a peerless treasure for cultivation. Feng Wu smiled. It's what helped me recover my cultivation. Feng Wu had dropped to a level 4 spiritual king, but she recovered to level 6 and then rose to level 8. It was all thanks to the blood source crystal she had found in the treasure room. Feng Sun stared at Feng Wu. Legend has it that 10,000 top-grade spirit stones can only be exchanged for 1 blood source crystal. You have 4 now. Where did you get them? Did you rob someone? Feng Wu grinned at Feng Sun. Feng Sun asked, you really did? Feng Sun knew Feng Wu's habits very well. She would never leave a room empty-handed. If she got into the Hua manor, Feng Sun asked, did you get them from the Hua family? Feng Wu nodded. Feng Sun said, the Hua family is really unlucky. You walked in there like a weasel in a hen's den. Feng Wu glanced at him and closed her palms. You don't want them, do you? Hey, don't. You're my dearest sister. Feng Sun begged her right away, and only then did he manage to get the 4 blood source crystals from her. I mean it. How did you get them? The Hua family should have put heavy guards on something as important as blood source crystals, right? Feng Wu smiled. They have, but there are loopholes. Feng Sun said, they'll be furious when they know that they've lost the blood source crystal. Feng Wu smiled. Of course they will. That old lady of the Hua family has saved these crystals for her own breakthrough. Almost all cultivators below the spiritual overlord stage use spiritual stones to make breakthroughs. Once we become spiritual overlords, it'll be much easier for us to cultivate with the crystals. Feng Sun said, that old lady is going to explode. You've taken their most precious thing. Feng Wu said, who says it's their most precious thing? Feng Sun said, what? Feng Wu looked up to see Duan Chaoga running toward her. Xiao Wu. Seeing Feng Wu, Duan Chaoga wouldn't let go of her arm. I've been worried sick. Duan Chaoga held Feng Wu in her arms. I've finished what you told me to do. Feng Sun said, that's why I haven't seen you for the past 2 days. You've been working for little Feng Wu. He looked at Feng Wu curiously. What did you ask Chaoga to do for you this time? Feng Wu smiled. Heaven's secrets can't be divulged. TCH. Feng Sun was so curious, but he also knew how tight-lipped Feng Wu was. If she didn't want to tell him, no one could make her. Chapter 3565. Chapter 3565. Shocking News, 17. Chapter 3565. Shocking News, 17. Feng Wu took out a booklet from her ring and handed it to Duan Chaoga. Duan Chaoga looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment, then took the booklet and read the cover. True Flower Scripture. Feng Sun's eyes widened in surprise. The True Flower Scripture, if I remember correctly, it's an ultimate skill that only the direct descendants of the Hua family can master. Hua Wuxuang is the only one practicing it now. Even Hua Wuji isn't qualified to learn it. This scripture teaches you the martial stances. I remember that Chaoga used to learn Unflower's cultivation method. Feng Wu nodded. She was giving the true flower scripture to Duan Chowga because it was a martial technique. Together with what Chowga had learned before, it would double the effect. Chowga was over the moon. And this. Feng Wu handed Duan Chowga a jar of black ointment. What's this? Duan Chowga asked curiously. Feng Wu said, I found this body forge ointment in the Hua clan's vault. This one is all yours. And this is body forging technique. Duan Chowga had both cultivation and martial techniques. Feng Wu decided to train her in both aspects from the very beginning so that she wouldn't be in a hurry at a later stage. Chowga was about to put the things away when Feng Wu said, Don't wait. Go to your room and cultivate now. There's going to be a fierce battle in the near future, and I don't want you to get hurt. Duan Chowga always listened to Feng Wu and would do whatever Feng Wu said. She nodded obediently, went back to her room, and started her cultivation. Feng Sun, on the other hand, stared at Feng Wu in astonishment. The body forge ointment, the true flower scripture, and the blood source crystals. Xiao Wu, you didn't empty the entire treasure room, did you? Feng Wu glanced at him. How did you know? Feng Sun asked, really? Feng Wu nodded indifferently. Feng Sun was astonished. Feng Sun didn't know what to say. He felt sorry for the Hua clan. How many years had it taken them to gather so many treasures? And she had taken them all at once. They shouldn't have messed with you. Feng Sun finally realized that the girl wasn't the type to take things lying down. Just because she wasn't capable enough didn't mean that she would let them push her around. The Hua clan might suffer even more in the future. Feng Wu smiled. It's just the things the Hua clan brought to the Imperial capital. The Hua clan has been around for thousands of years. Their flower valley must have a lot of good stuff. Feng Sun pointed at Feng Wu. You're after the flower valley as well. Feng Wu raised an eyebrow. I'll leave them alone if they don't come after me. But what if they insist on destroying my clan and my entire family? Feng Sun agreed. I hope they won't take it too hard. The girl wasn't just any ordinary girl. She was able to defeat the strong, even though she was weaker than them. Who would have thought that a mere level 4 spiritual king could turn the 2 major clans against each other and turn the Imperial capital upside down? Feng Sun said, I need to go cultivate now. If I don't work harder, Chowga will catch up with me. As the successor of Unflower, Duan Chowga was making rapid progress. And there was Xian Yi, who was about to make a breakthrough to the spiritual overlord stage. Yu Minji was already a spiritual overlord. Feng Sun grew anxious and dashed off after that. Chapter 3566. Chapter 3566. Shocking News, 18. Chapter 3566. Shocking News, 18. Seeing how flustered he was, Feng Wu chuckled. So what if she had risked her life? As long as she could get stronger and make her family and friends stronger, everything would be worthwhile. Feng Wu began to sort through the things she had obtained from the treasure rooms. This time, she had cleared out 2 treasure rooms, and her storage space was filled to the brim. There was indeed a lot of good stuff. Apart from the elixirs and cultivation techniques, Feng Wu spotted a chest that was as tall as a grown man. She opened it to find steel needles that were almost a meter long. Feng Wu's eyes lit up as she studied the chest. She gave away all the resources she could spare and stored the rest in her ring. Just then, there was knocking on the door outside. Everyone in Fallen Star Yard was cultivating, and Feng Wu was the only one who didn't have anything better to do. Hence, she opened the gate with a wave of her hand. A few people were standing outside. Feng Wu recognized Feng Sang and Feng. He held the hands of 2 children, a boy and a girl. They were twins of 4 or 5 years old. Both were very pretty and cute as a button. Feng Sang was a little embarrassed to see Feng Wu. She said in a harsh tone, My sister said, thank you for what you did last time. Feng Wu asked, What are you referring to? Seeing that Feng Sang was going to snap, Feng Yi tugged at her sleeve, walked up to Feng Wu, and said, My dear sister, it's all thanks to you that I'm able to deal with Duke Li's family. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today. Feng Yi asked around afterward and found out that her parents had been in the manor that day. but they were too scared to come out. They didn't even open the door. Only Feng Yi herself knew how desperate she felt. Feng Wu saw the sincerity in Feng Yi's limpid eyes, and she sounded very sincere. Feng Wu felt a little guilty. After inviting them to sit down in the courtyard, Feng Wu poured some tea for Feng Yi and said mildly, "I'll be honest with you. In fact, I'm the reason that they've treated you like that. If the spiritual overlords aren't coming after me, you wouldn't have been incriminated. You'll still live happily in Duke Li's manor now." Feng Sang glanced at Feng Wu and snorted. "So you do know that?" Feng Yi threw a stern look at Feng Sang, then turned to Feng Wu with a gentle look on her face. Taking Feng Wu's hand, Feng Yi smiled bitterly. "Without you, I'd still be living in hell in the Duke's mansion. I'd wish I were dead." Only then did Feng Wu learn that Li Chaopan didn't like Feng Yi at all. Her mother-in-law was very strict with her, and her father-in-law didn't like her either. All the servants followed suit. "If it hadn't been for you, I wouldn't have been able to see my children because my mother-in-law has been raising them in her courtyard." Feng Yi only felt much better after she told Feng Wu about her marriage. "Without you, I would have had a nervous breakdown one day, and I could have hanged myself. Xiao Wu, I'm really grateful." Feng Wu could sense Feng Yi's gratitude from the bottom of her heart, but she didn't like it when other people thanked her. She preferred to argue with her enemies and make them frustrated. Feng Wu wasn't good at small talky, so she looked at the two children. "Wait a minute." Chapter 3567. Chapter 3567. Shocking News, 19. Chapter 3567. Shocking News, 19. Feng Wu's eyes lit up when she saw the twins. Feng Yi two children to greet Feng Wu. Feng Wu waved her hand and asked, "These two kids, can they start cultivating?" Feng Yi winced at the mention of it. She said with a sad look on her face, "Nuno was born with no cultivation talent. Duke Li has sent someone to examine her, and they said that Nuno could never cultivate, but because she was pretty, the old lady kept Nuno with her so that she could marry her off in the future. As for DeBeo, I heard that he's one of the least talented types. Even if he cultivates, he can reach the spiritual master stage at most. But Li Chaopan still has other children as well. His favorite is Luo's child, a 7-year-old boy. He's very talented and has started cultivating at such a young age. He's already a spiritual master now." Feng Yi sounded pained. No wonder she had a hard life over there. His concubine's child is 7 years old now. "You haven't been married for 7 years, have you?" Feng Wu asked with a frown. Feng Yi nodded. "Luo gave birth to Li Chaopan's eldest son before I married him." Feng Wu asked, "Why would you marry someone like that?" Feng Yi stopped talking right away. "When Lady Wang married you off, did she know that Li Chaopan already had a son by his concubine?" Feng Wu asked casually. Feng Sang interjected in a hurry. "Duke Li kept it a secret, and we only found out about it afterward. My mother didn't know at first." Feng Wu asked, "Really?" Feng Sang said, "I think so." Feng Wu smiled a little and didn't say another word. Because Feng Wu was the one who had started the whole thing, she felt a little guilty toward Feng Yi. Seeing the two children, Feng Wu wanted to make it up to them. She opened her palm to reveal 2 green pills. "Eat it." Feng Wu gave one to each child. The two children looked at Feng Yi timidly. Feng Yi knew that Feng Wu wouldn't harm them, so she said to the two children, "Aunt Wu gave it to you. Be good and eat it." The two kids stuffed the pills into their mouths. But Feng Sang frowned. "Don't eat it yet. Who knows what it is?" She then turned to Feng Wu. "What's this?" Feng Wu said lightly, "Good stuff." Feng Sang asked, "What good stuff? What if they kill the kids?" Feng Wu glanced at Feng Sang. "If you ate that when you were little, you wouldn't be so weak now." Feng Sang stared at Feng Wu and frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Feng Wu said, "If you ate that when you were little, you wouldn't have asked me what it meant." Feng Sang was speechless. Feng Sang was about to argue with Feng Wu when Feng Yi said, "Don't worry. Xiao Wu won't harm us. DeBeo, Nuno, eat your pills." The two children swallowed the pills. The pill melted as soon as it entered their mouths. The energy soon spread through their system. Feng Sang asked nervously, "Are they going to be all right?" "Feng Wu, what did you give them?" Feng Wu didn't speak. But soon, the two kids began to react. They're sweating. Feng Yi saw the sweat on Debeo's forehead. When she touched it, she saw that her palms were covered with sweat, which was black in color. Then, the same thing happened to Nyonyo. Chapter 3568. Chapter 3568. Shocking News 20. Chapter 3568. Shocking News 20. Feng Sang had a vague idea. She looked up and stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. Feng Wu said, "Take them back and let them rest well. They'll feel refreshed after they wake up and take a bath. The filth will be washed away." Feng Yi followed Feng Wu's instructions and carried the twins away. But Feng Sang didn't leave. She kept staring at Feng Wu in astonishment. Feng Wu rolled her eyes at her. "Why are you still here?" Feng Sang said, "Tell me the truth. What did you feed them?" Feng Wu said, "Poison." Feng Sang stared at Feng Wu. "You won't do that." Feng Wu said, "If you have time to keep an eye on me, go back and take good care of them." Feng Sang had a feeling, but she wasn't sure, so she had to keep it to herself. "I'll go back and take care of them. If anything happens to them, I'll make you pay." Feng Wu waved her hand impatiently. Feng Sang ran off as fast as she could. Feng Wu thought, "I still have quite a few cleansing pills from the Hua clan. If Feng Sang had been nicer, Feng Wu would have given her one, but she just had to be so grumpy." Feng Sang ran back home to find the two kids sweating profusely. She was a little frightened, so she went to look for Feng Yinfeng. Feng Yinfeng wasn't here, but Lady Wang was. Lady Wang rushed over as soon as she heard what had happened. No matter how an adult changed, their nature would remain the same. Lady Wang had always been a self-interested person. Although Feng Wu was on friendly terms with Lady Wang's family, Lady Wang was still very alarmed. "What's wrong with my dear grandchildren? Did Feng Wu do something to them?" Immediately, Lady Wang tried to blame everything on Feng Wu. Feng Sang explained in a hurry, "It doesn't have to be poison." Lady Wang didn't hear any of that. She rushed over to the two kids and saw that they were covered in black sweat. She already had a problem with Feng Wu. "Debeo, Nyonyo, my dearest babies," holding them, Lady Wang wanted to take revenge on Feng Wu. Feng Yi stopped her right away. "Mother, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Xiao Wu said they'll be fine after they wake up and take a bath." Lady Wang flared up. "Of course it's a bad thing. Feel their foreheads. They're burning up. What kind of mother are you? How can you speak up for an outsider? Get Feng Wu here." Feng Yi pushed Lady Wang toward the door. Lady Wang said, "What are you doing? What's this?" Feng Yi pushed Lady Wang out of the room, slammed the door shut, and locked it. Lady Wang banged on the door. "Feng Yi, do you have any idea what you're doing? Open up. Open this door right now." However, Feng Yi didn't listen to Lady Wang this time. Feng Sang looked at Feng Yi in admiration. "Sister, you're so brave." Feng Yi shook her head. "Xiao Sang, you're still young and haven't experienced the hardships of life. You won't understand a lot of things, and you won't be able to see through other people like I used to. But after what happened, I finally realized something. Mothers aren't born to be kind to their children, and some are snobbish. Actually, our mother knew that Li Chaopan had a concubine son before we were married, and she even knew that he wasn't a decent person. Chapter 3569. Chapter 3569. Shocking News 21. Chapter 3569. Shocking News 21. But she still kept it from me and insisted that I marry him. She did it all for the sake of the Duke Li's status and prestige. Over the years, our parents have borrowed a lot of money from Duke Li. You don't know this, do you? Because of that, Duke Li's family doesn't see me as a human being anymore. Our parents were at home on that day when I was sent back. They were afraid that Li Chaopan would ask them to pay back their debts, so they kept their doors shut. What kind of parents are they? Do you think there's anyone in our family that can lead this family? Xiao Wu is our only hope now. She's the one who can bring glory to our clan. She's a genius. Why do you have to go against her? After hearing everything you told me, I think Xiao Wu is the one who's on the right, whereas our family has never been reasonable. Not only that, but they've also been picking on Feng Wu's family. Xiao sang, think about it. Isn't that true? Therefore, I choose to trust Xiao Wu this time. I'm sure she won't harm me. Feng Yi stared at Feng Sang and stressed each word. Feng Sang took her words to heart and sighed. Actually, I know perfectly well that Feng Wu is on the right. I just can't get over what I'm feeling. Feng Wu was a genius when she was little. I wouldn't have reacted differently if she had remained that way. But when she became useless and I thought I could defeat her, she rose again. Envy is the worst feeling. Of course, I've figured it out now. Feng Wu is so powerful that I can never catch up with her. I can't even see how high up she is now and have given up on competing with her. So don't worry. I won't be jealous of her anymore. Once I stop comparing myself with her, I can see how capable she is. Feng Yi nodded. That's why our mother is wrong. We can't follow her blindly. We should have our own opinions. Feng Sang said, yes. Outside, Lady Wang had no idea what decision her two daughters had made. If she did, she would probably be furious. It seemed forever before the two children woke up. After Feng Yi cleaned them up, they all put on fluffy sleeping gowns, which made them look even more adorable. Wait, Feng Sang's eyes widened when she examined them. What's wrong? Feng Yi was still concerned. Why do I feel spiritual essence in them? Wait, let me feel them again. Instinctively, Feng Sang thought that she was mistaken, but when she examined them again, she realized in astonishment that there really was spiritual essence. They re-level 3 spiritual masters. Feng Sang almost couldn't stand still. She stared at Feng Yi and said in disbelief, both Debeo and Nyonyo are level 3 spiritual masters. What? Feng Yi was so shocked. W, what did you say? Level 3 spiritual masters. Aren't they useless and can't cultivate? Feng Sang said, but they really are level 3 spiritual masters. Wait here. I'll go get our father. Feng Sang opened the door and dashed off after that. When Feng Sang opened the door, Lady Wang was finally able to come in. She rushed into the room and smacked Feng Yi on the forehead. You traitor! Are you going to ignore your mother now? How dare you shut your mother out? Chapter 3570. Chapter 3570. Lit Genius 1. Chapter 3570. Lit Genius 1. Lady Wang went on, but Feng Yi didn't react at all, because she was still immersed in what Feng Sang said. Level 3 spiritual masters. Level 3 spiritual masters. How is this possible? Did you hear me? Seeing that Feng Yi's mind had wandered off, Lady Wang smacked her on the head with all her strength. That woke Feng Yi up. Mother! Feng Yi frowned at Lady Wang. Lady Wang glared back at her. I'm talking to you. Can't you hear me? What's wrong with you? You went to Fallen Star Yard, and you're acting strangely. What did Feng Wu do to you? Why won't you listen to your mother? Feng Wu. Green pills? Level 3 spiritual masters. Feng Yi turned around and stared at her two children with twinkling eyes. Just then, Feng Sang arrived with Feng Yanfeng, and Feng Yiran arrived in a hurry as well. Father, look, see if they're level 3 spiritual masters. Feng Sang pushed Feng Yanfeng in front of the two kids. The two children looked at their grandpa with their big, innocent eyes. Their grandfather wasn't very friendly to them, so they were a little scared. Debeo, Nyonyo, don't be afraid. I'm just checking on you. Don't worry. Feng Yanfeng wouldn't believe it when Feng Sang told him about it. Who was she kidding? The two kids were hopeless. One had little talent, and the other one had no talent at all. Feng Yanfeng decided that he would find a chance to marry Feng Yi off. As for the two kids, he would leave them in the Feng clan for the rest of their lives. Feng Yanfeng examined them without much hope. He had thought that he could just give them a quick examination so that Feng Sang wouldn't get too excited. As it turned out, he really discovered something. Lady Wang was still complaining to Feng Yinfeng about how disobedient Feng Yi was. She was still talking nonstop when Feng Yinfeng bellowed, "Shut up!" Lady Wang stared at Feng Yinfeng in disbelief. "Are you scolding me?" Feng Yinfeng didn't have time for this and bellowed again. "Just shut up." He was genuinely angry. Lady Wang had always bullied the weak and feared the strong. When Feng Yinfeng flared up, she cringed and hid behind Feng Yi. She didn't dare to utter a word. Feng Yinfeng looked amazed as he murmured, "It's real? How can this be? Is it that amazing?" Feng Yi went up to him. "Father," Feng Yinfeng said, "they're only 3.5 years old, but they're already level 3 spiritual masters. That's incredible." The kids hadn't even started cultivating yet, and even if they had, they would have to work on strengthening their bodies first. No one had ever reached the spiritual master stage before they were 3 or 4. Feng Yinfeng asked in a hurry, "What happened? Why is this happening all of a sudden?" Feng Yi asked with tears in her eyes, "Father, is this good news?" Feng Yinfeng's eyes widened. "If that's not good news, what is?" "This is great news. The Feng clan is going to have 2 geniuses. Do you still remember Li Chaopan's eldest son? He was a level 3 spiritual master when he was 7, and he was already considered very talented. Your kids are already level 3 spiritual masters now." Chapter 3571. Chapter 3571. Lit Genius 2. Chapter 3571. Lit Genius 2. Feng Yinfeng urged, "So what happened? Why are they like this all of a sudden?" She then told Feng Yinfeng about the 2 green pills that Feng Wu had given the kids. Feng Sang added, "Feng Xiaoqi is going to be a spiritual king soon." Feng Yinfeng was astonished. He stared at Feng Sang. Feng Sang nodded. "I ran into Feng Xiaoqi a few days ago. He said it himself. He's 1 step away from the spiritual king stage. And there's Duan Chaoga. She's almost a spiritual king." Feng Yinfeng gasped. Feng Wu was surrounded by geniuses. Did Feng Wu give them the legendary dragon marrow cleansing pill? It's the only thing that can turn a talentless person into a good cultivator. But such a precious thing. Lady Wang was confused. "Is it very precious?" Feng Yinfeng said, "Of course. A treasure that can turn an inferior endowment into a spiritual one is priceless. You can't buy it with spiritual stones. I didn't expect that girl to be so generous." Lady Wang, however, was suspicious. "Is it a trap?" Feng Yi said in a hurry. "No. Xiao Wu is kind to us." Lady Wang glared at Feng Yi. "What did that girl do to you to make you flatter her?" Feng Yinfeng mumbled, "I'd flatter her if she gave me the dragon marrow cleansing pill." Lady Wang looked at Feng Yinfeng suspiciously. "What did you say, my lord?" Feng Yinfeng said, "Nothing." Lady Wang said, "I have a feeling that girl isn't up for good. There must be a trap." Feng Yinfeng said, "I'll talk to the elders." Since Feng Yi has divorced, her children are the Feng clan's children. Feng Yinfeng went to the forbidden area at the back of the mountain himself. There was silence. Everyone silently looked at the 2 children. Feng Sang was in a dilemma. Dragon transformation marrow cleansing pill. Feng Wu gave away 2 such pills. 2. She casually gave it to the 2 children. Feng Sang thought that if she had one, she would love to get her hands on it. Feng Sang and Feng Yiran looked at each other and saw the most intense desire in each other's eyes. Feng Yiran said, "Do you think she has more?" Feng Sang said in frustration, "Even if she did, she wouldn't give it to us. After all, we've offended her before." Feng Yiran lowered his voice. "That's all in the past. She's so powerful now, and she's friends with such amazing people. I don't think she'll hold it against a nobody like us, do you?" Feng Sang said, "In that case, let's go and ask her for help." Although the 2 of them spoke in low voices, Lady Wang had heard everything clearly. She exploded. She smacked both of her children. "What are you 2 talking about? Ask Feng Wu for help? Huh? You're going to beg Feng Wu for some pills? How dare you?" Lady Wang was infuriated. Feng Sang got angry too. "She's our sister." Lady Wang said, "She's only your cousin. Feng Sang said, "Fine, she's my cousin, but that's close enough. I used to be close to her when we were young, but you kept telling us that Feng Wu was stealing our cultivation resources. We only became estranged because of you." Lady Wang couldn't believe what she had just heard. She was so angry that she wanted to hit Feng Sang, but Feng Sang ran up to Feng Yiran and hid behind him. Chapter 3572. Chapter 3572. Little Genius 3. Chapter 3572. Little Genius 3. Lady Wang was infuriated. "Don't forget that Feng Wu killed your sister." Feng Yiran looked at Lady Wang. "Mother, I've been meaning to tell you. Lu was the one who tried to kill Feng Wu first, and she kept doing it." Lady Wang said, "But Feng Wu killed her." Feng Yiran said, "Feng Wu didn't kill her. Lu fell down herself." Lady Wang was furious. Are you trying to give me a heart attack?" Feng Yiran and Feng Sang, who had been united by her side, no longer saw Feng Wu as their enemy. They even wanted to betray her. Feng Sang said, "Mother, why don't you understand? Feng Wu is the Feng clan's only hope now. We should—" Lady Wang was infuriated. "I don't care. I just want Feng Wu dead." Feng Sang and Feng Yiran looked at each other, their eyes filled with pain. His mother had been married into the Feng clan for so long. Did she still not treat the Feng clan as her own family? Just then, they heard footsteps outside. Who ignores the benefit of the Feng clan and wants Feng Wu dead? The one who spoke was Elder Grain. The other two elders of the restricted area were cultivating and busy dealing with the incoming spiritual overlords. Therefore, only Elder Grain came this time. The moment Elder Grain arrived, the temperature instantly dropped. Elder Grain stared at Lady Wang with his cold eyes. Lady Wang felt a chill run down her spine, and her body went limp. She almost fainted. Elder Grain stared at Feng Yanfeng and said coldly, "You haven't divorced your wife yet." Lady Wang dropped to her knees. Feng Sang begged, "Elder Grain, Mother will repent. She'll repent." What she said was unintentional. Elder Grain glanced at Feng Sang and said nothing. He walked in front of the two children and carefully examined them. Finally, a smile appeared on his face. "Good." Feng Yanfeng was thrilled. "Elder Grain, are they really level 3 spiritual masters?" Elder Grain nodded. "They're more than that. In the next few days, it's very likely that they'll advance to level 4. Xiao Wu really is the hope of our clan." In the end, Elder Grain looked at Feng Yi. "Are you willing to let us raise these 2 children in the forbidden area at the back of the mountain?" Feng Yi had seen Elder Grain when she was young and had also been examined by him. Back then, Elder Grain was disappointed and said that this child had little talent. Let her be an ordinary person. Feng Yi nodded. "Of course." She quickly got the 2 children to kneel down and greet Elder Grain. Lady Wang watched helplessly as Elder Grain led the 2 future prodigies away. She felt extremely aggrieved. Feng Sang gave Lady Wang one last look. "Mother, I advise you to be kind. If you still want to go against Xiao Wu, you could do it yourself. I won't follow you blindly anymore. I'm old enough to know what's right and what's wrong." With that, Feng Sang turned around and left. Feng Yiran walked up to Lady Wang and gave her a silent look. In the end, he said, "Mother, what happened to Lu should teach you a lesson. Just think about it." Feng Yiran left after that. Lady Wang watched them leave in silence. In the end, she burst into tears. Seeing Lady Wang's reaction, Feng Yi went up to her and knelt down beside her. She heaved a long sigh. "Mother, it's time for you to be reasonable." Chapter 3573. Chapter 3573. Where are the treasures? 1. Chapter 3573. Where are the treasures? 1. Meanwhile, in the Hua clan, Mrs. Hua sat quietly in the ink cleansing hall, holding the prayer beads in her hand and counting them one by one with her eyes closed. No one dared to enter the house, let alone disturb him. Everyone was perfectly silent and trembling in fear, afraid that the old lady would kill them all in anger. Outside the hall stood the eldest Master Hua and Hua Wuyin, his brother, as well as their wives and children. Everyone in the Hua family was gathered outside the door, waiting for the old lady's instructions. The old lady was the backbone of the clan. Once she was gone, the Hua family wouldn't know what to do. Master Hua was the most anxious because the one in trouble was his daughter, Hua Wushuang. It took him some painstaking effort to persuade the Zhou family to leave. At first, the Zhou family wouldn't leave, but Master Hua told them that he would hand Hua Wushuang over to the Zhou family when he found her. Only then did the Zhou family leave reluctantly. "Have you found Wushuang?" Master Hua asked anxiously when he saw Aunt Shi. Aunt Shi shook her head at him. Master Hua was instantly enraged. "What have you been doing? How could you let Wushuang do such a thing? Now, you actually can't find her." Aunt Shi had just been humiliated by Yuminji, and now that she was back, she had to listen to this. How frustrating. "Aunt Shi, come in." Mrs. Hua's indifferent voice came from inside. Aunt Shi knew that the old lady was in an extremely gloomy mood. She carefully entered and quietly closed the door before walking to the old lady. "How did it go?" Mrs. Hua stared at Aunt Shi. Aunt Shi's expression was ugly as she shook her head. "I couldn't find Miss Wushuang. I've searched everywhere, but there's no sign of her. It's as if she suddenly disappeared from this world." Mrs. Hua said, "She has to be somewhere." Aunt Shi said, "But I really—" Mrs. Hua said, "Unless she's hiding somewhere or someone is hiding her." Aunt Shi said, "Then do you think she's been hidden against her will? Could it be the doing of the Zhou family?" Mrs. Hua shook her head. "No. If the Zhou family had found her before us, Zhou Ming and his wife wouldn't have acted that way. They're just average actors." Mrs. Hua pondered for a moment and said to Aunt Shi, "Did you encounter anything strange?" Aunt Shi shook her head. Mrs. Hua asked, "Not even a little." Aunt Shi thought for a moment, then remembered Yuminji's carriage and Feng Wu. So she told Mrs. Hua about it. Feng Wu. Mrs. Hua frowned. Aunt Shi said, "Yuminji and Feng Sun were there, and they took her home in a carriage. It seemed fine." Mrs. Hua asked Aunt Shi for more details, such as Feng Wu's clothes and accessories, and Aunt Shi answered all of them. Mrs. Hua thought about it, but still couldn't figure out what was wrong with Feng Wu. However, she felt that something was amiss. "Go to the treasure room and get the self-questioning mirror," Mrs. Hua told Aunt Shi. Aunt Shi nodded and left quickly. The self-questioning mirror was a magical mirror. It was Mrs. Hua's habit to ask the mirror if she was indecisive. After Aunt Shi left, a name kept appearing in Mrs. Hua's mind. Feng Wu. She finally understood what was wrong. Rumor had it that Jun Linyuan and Feng Wu were close, and even Mrs. Hua had seen it with her own eyes. Chapter 3574. Chapter 3574. Where are the treasures? 2. Chapter 3574. Where are the treasures? 2. Mrs. Hua hadn't kept the Empress Dowager's promise of marriage a secret, nor had the Empress Dowager. However, Feng Wu had been too quiet. How could she not do anything? Did Feng Wu do something about what happened between Hua Wushuang and Zhou Qingxi? That was what Mrs. Hua thought. She immediately started investigating, but there was no trace at all. The incident between Hua Wushuang and Zhou Qingxi was flawless. Everyone witnessed Hua Wushuang attacking Zhou Qingxi with their own eyes. Wait, Mrs. Hua's heart skipped a beat. She knew her own medical skills very well. She was very confident in helping Zhou Qingxi with reattaching his body part, because she had done it before. Back then, she had caught her husband cheating. In a fit of anger, she cut off his member. Later on, she personally reattached it. That was why she tried to treat Zhou Qingxi. But Zhou Qingxi was dead. That shouldn't have happened. Was something wrong with him before that? Mrs. Hua frowned. Actually, when she examined Zhou Qingxi's dead body, she didn't find anything wrong with it, but some hidden injuries could be manifested after death. No, She had to check Zhuo Qingxi's body again. At this thought, Mrs. Hua stood up and was about to go to the Zhuo family. But soon, she came up with a brilliant idea. What if Zhuo Qingxi had no internal injuries? No, she had to make one up. Hadn't Zhuo Qingxi and Feng Wu had an argument before? Mrs. Hua decided that she could accuse Feng Wu of being the culprit and say that Zhuo Qingxi had died because Feng Wu had injured him. This wasn't enough. How was she going to pin more blame on Feng Wu? Wasn't Feng Wu a semi-divine medicine refiner? If that were the case, she must have a drug that could control people's minds. Mrs. Hua would say that Feng Wu had drugged Hua Wu Shuang, which was why Wu Shuang had lost her mind. Wu Shuang acted like a mad person when she ran out. What about the motive? It couldn't be more obvious. If Feng Wu wanted to have Jun Linyuan to herself, she only had to kill Hua Wu Shuang and drag the Zhuo family into the mess. That way, she would be the winner. Mrs. Hua was shocked by her own brilliant idea. How could she be so smart? What if Feng Wu wouldn't admit it? Well, Mrs. Hua would make sure that Feng Wu had to admit everything. It should be Feng Wu's honor to be the scapegoat for the Hua clan. Mrs. Hua decided to leave Feng Wu's body intact to show her kindness. Just as Mrs. Hua was happily imagining all the plans in her mind, and she rushed in like a gust of wind. And she had always been a steady person. When had she ever been so flustered? Thump! And she broke through a door and flew in. Mrs. Hua looked up and stared at her with a frown. Before Aunt She could get up from the ground, she was already shouting, "Ma'am, you have to take a look at the treasure room now." Mrs. Hua's heart sank. She had a very bad feeling. Quickly, Aunt She was so anxious that she almost couldn't think straight. Mrs. Hua didn't say anything else. She stood up and rushed to the treasure room. The treasure room was built underground, and there were formations inside and outside. Only two people could come and go freely. One was Mrs. Hua, and the other was Aunt She. Of course, Aunt She was only allowed to enter after receiving Mrs. Hua's order and obtaining the password. The room used a dynamic password that would be changed automatically every 2 hours. Chapter 3575. Chapter 3575. Where are the treasures? 3. Chapter 3575. Where are the treasures? 3. This was the spirit formation that Mrs. Hua had set up. She had always been proud of it. Mrs. Hua and Aunt She rushed toward the treasury. There was a group of people waiting in Mrs. Hua's courtyard. Her both sons were there. Seeing that Mrs. Hua had left in a hurry, everyone followed her, afraid that they would miss something. Hua Wuji held her mother's hand. "Mother, this doesn't seem right. Grandmother has always been strong and steady, but now she's staggering. And there's Aunt She. She's usually so arrogant and only cares about Grandma and Hua Wu Shuang, but just now, she ran into the door in a panic. Mother, why am I so flustered?" "That's the direction of the treasure room," her mother said seriously. "When we came to the Imperial capital, we brought many treasures from the Flower Valley. Many are all extremely precious things." Soon, they arrived at the treasure room. Mrs. Hua used the dynamic password to enter. Aunt She didn't dare to enter, but in the end, she braced herself and followed Mrs. Hua, while the others stayed outside. Mrs. Hua went in alone. When she saw that the huge treasure room was empty, she was dumbfounded. There was nothing left. The shelves were all empty. Mrs. Hua was already using a walking stick. However, at this moment, she was walking as fast as she could and rushed out to open all kinds of hidden mechanisms. The first hidden compartment was empty. The second hidden compartment was empty. The third hidden compartment was empty. The mica energy, self-questioning mirror, blood source crystals, dragon transformation marrow, cleansing pills. All the treasures disappeared overnight. The Flower Valley had accumulated the treasures for many years. How could they be gone? Mrs. Hua almost fainted. What's going on here? Where's everything? Why are they all gone? Mrs. Hua glared at Aunt She viciously and questioned her. Answer me. Mrs. Hua whipped Aunt She with her hardwood walking stick. Speak. And she was sent flying and hit the wooden shelf with a bang. She was dizzy, and blood dripped from the corner of her mouth. But Aunt she didn't dare to fight back at all. She crawled over silently and knelt in front of Mrs. Hua. I really don't know. After I sent the mica energy back last night, I left. Because you have the password, I thought no one would approach. Mrs. Hua was very confident in her formation, and the treasure room was underground, so she only sent 2 experts to guard it. Come out. Those 2 experts were both elders at the spiritual overlord stage. At this moment, they were kneeling in front of Mrs. Hua. Speak. Mrs. Hua roared. However, Mrs. Hua couldn't get any useful information from them, because what they told Mrs. Hua was exactly what Aunt She said. From the moment Aunt She left until just now, no one had entered. That's impossible. Mrs. Hua frowned. Could there be an invisibility spell in this world? Who the hell was it? As for the invisibility spell, Master Phoenix did have such a spell, but no mortals could use it. As for invisibility tools, suddenly Mrs. Hua's eyes flickered. Chapter 3576. Chapter 3576. Change of Plan 1. Chapter 3576. Change of Plan 1. The Zwa family. Legend had it that a powerful cultivator had received a feather from Master Phoenix. Later, he used the feather to make an invisibility cloak. From then on, the cloak was used in the mortal world. Mrs. Hua had heard from Zwa Chengfeng a few years ago that he had obtained this cloak. Could it be? Zwa Chengfeng. One needed the dynamic password to enter or leave the room. Even with an invisibility cloak, one still had to open the door. Mrs. Hua studied the door seriously. After a long time, she really managed to figure it out. Since Aunt She entered last night till now, the door had only opened 3 times. The first time was when Aunt She entered the room the night before. The second time was when Aunt She entered the room just now. The third time was when Mrs. Hua entered, and someone had gone out 3 times. Aunt She left the room twice. Mrs. Hua had never left the room since she came in, so that extra time, who was it? The only explanation now was that the other party was wearing an invisibility cloak and followed behind Aunt She. After Aunt She left, they stole all the treasures. At the thought of this, Mrs. Hua gripped the walking stick tightly with her withered hand, and anger burned in her eyes. They couldn't have followed Aunt She the second time, because by then, the room was already empty. Therefore, after eliminating all the impossibilities, the only possibility left was that person followed Aunt She into the treasure room the night before. Last night, Mrs. Hua remembered that not long after Aunt She left, the old man from the Zwa family followed her in. The Zwa family. The Zwa family. Mrs. Hua was so angry that her chest heaved. She was discussing a collaboration with old Master Zwa, but the old man actually set her up. Mrs. Hua recalled that when she was young, Zwa Chengfeng courted her and swore he would marry no one but her. But now, he was so vicious that he even stole from the Hua family's treasure vault. Was the Zwa family so deaf now? Mrs. Hua wanted to question Zwa Chengfeng, but she controlled herself in the end. Calm down. What if it wasn't him? Although all the evidence pointed to him, what if it wasn't him? Mrs. Hua still wanted to work with the Zwa family. She took a deep breath and walked out of the treasure room, closing the door solemnly. And she also walked out. The others rushed over. Her eldest son asked, "Mother, did something happen to the treasure room?" The head of the Hua family was Mrs. Hua, and she was the one who called all the shots. Her son had no actual power and listened to everything his mother said. Mrs. Hua shook her head lightly. "I just lost something. It's fine. Go back to your own business." Did he just lose a little something? Hua Wuji frowned suspiciously. The old lady was such a calm person, but she lost a shoe while she was running just then. A little something? Hua Wuji didn't believe it. After Mrs. Hua returned to her room, she immediately summoned someone and gave him some instructions. The person ran toward the Zwa family like a gust of wind. In the fallen star yard. When Yu Minji returned, he ran to Feng Wu in excitement. Feng Wu glanced at him. "You're back." Feng Wu had made another breakthrough while she was cultivating, and she had to thank the Hua family for the resources. Otherwise, her body forging technique wouldn't have been able to improve so quickly. Feng Wu just finished cultivating when Yu Minji returned. Chapter 3577. Chapter 3577. Change of Plan 2. Chapter 3577. Change of Plan 2. It's done. Yu Minji gloated. The Hua family is looking for Hua Wushuang, and so is the Zhou family. I put her in the Zhou family's house, and sure enough, the spiritual overlord of the Zhou family found her first and took her away. The spiritual overlord of the Zhou family is quite powerful. He's at least at level 5. They call him Elder Lei. According to the convention of the Junwu Empire, one could be called an elder once they reach the spiritual overlord stage. Yu Minji said, "By the way, didn't you ask my elder to put the stuff in the Zhou family's house and frame them? Don't worry, my elder has done everything he can for you. I guarantee that the Hua family will be able to trace it back to the Zhou family." Feng Wu thought about the details and decided that she hadn't missed anything, so she said, "Now it's time for the big show." Yu Minji was thrilled. "What's next? Tell me." What Feng Wu asked him to do was random. Yu Minji still hadn't figured out what Feng Wu was up to. Feng Wu had 4 groups of people that she could use at the moment. The first was Emperor Wu's men, who were 5 senior spiritual overlords. If it weren't for the fact that she was in a life-and-death situation, Feng Wu wouldn't have used them, because they would tell Emperor Wu everything she did. It wasn't that Feng Wu didn't trust Emperor Wu, but that she didn't want to owe Emperor Wu a favor. No one wanted to owe an emperor a favor. The second group was from Northern Feng Mansion, but because most of them had been taken away by Northern Feng General, only a few people were left to guard the mansion. Feng Wu didn't want to use them unless she had to. The third group was Yu Minji's men. Yu Minji only brought 3 of his elders with him, but they were all at the peak of the spiritual overlord stage and were capable of fighting. The fourth group was the 3 elders of the Feng clan. Those 3 elders in the forbidden area were all that the clan had left. Just then, Little Phoenix sent a report to Feng Wu. "Xiao Wu, they found out about the treasure room. That old woman already knows about the theft. You were so right. She's suspecting the Zhou family and has sent people to the Zhou family to check if they have the treasures. You have to be careful. For what that old woman said, she really wants to frame you. She wants to use your status as a semi-divine medicine refiner and say that you poison Hua Wushuang. That's why she did such a thing. Motive? She says you want to steal Jun Linyuan from Hua Wushuang. Hey, don't scold me. I didn't say that." Feng Wu went back to the Feng clan, but Little Phoenix stayed there. Because it could become invisible now, it had been lying next to the flower pot in Mrs. Hua's room, reporting to Feng Wu. "How did I know that? That old woman and Hua Wushuang's father were discussing how to scheme against you and completely destroy the Feng clan. All right. I'll keep an eye on her for you." "Hey, the scout is back. He said that he did find something belonging to the Hua family's treasure room in the Zhou family's house. It's confirmed that Zhuo Chengfeng has betrayed the old lady. Also, they already know that Hua Wushuang is imprisoned by the Zhou family. The old lady is pacing around right now. She seems to be thinking of a way to deal with the Zhou family. Your crisis isn't over yet." Chapter 3578. Chapter 3578. Change of Plan 3. Chapter 3578. Change of Plan 3. Little Phoenix had done a great job this time. It could hide its aura after turning invisible. Unless its spiritual power fluctuated, even someone as powerful as Mrs. Hua wouldn't be able to discover its existence. Hey, the old lady seems to have thought of a solution. She's instructing her son to attack the Feng clan tonight and destroy you all. The old lady also admits that Jun Linyuan likes you. He'll be furious if they kill you, so she decides to destroy the Feng clan and frame the Zhou family. What excuse? The influential families are all very well informed. The old lady already knew that you destroyed Zhui Qingluan's true phoenix blood. She's going to use this as an excuse to frame the Zhua family. Feng Wu said, "Keep an eye on the old lady." Little Phoenix agreed. It broke out in cold sweat for Feng Wu. It had a feeling that Feng Wu's original plan wasn't like the old lady's. It wondered if Feng Wu had a backup plan. Meanwhile, in Fallen Star Yard, seeing Feng Wu's solemn look, Yu Minji was worried. He waved his hand in front of Feng Wu. "Feng Wu, are you all right?" Feng Wu was communicating with Little Phoenix through brainwaves. As far as Yu Minji was concerned, Feng Wu was in trance. "It's a little troublesome." Feng Wu stood up, put her hands behind her back, and paced around the yard. She had more than 10 spiritual overlords, but the Hua family had at least 15, and more were coming. This was because there were still many spiritual overlords gathered in the Imperial capital. These people were all waiting for an opportunity to kill Feng Wu. If the Hua clan contacted these people, as smart as the old lady was, she would definitely try to use those people. If Mrs. Hua personally took action, the Feng clan would be in danger. Feng Wu looked around the house and studied every blade of grass, every tree, every flower. Why did some people want others dead? Why couldn't they live a peaceful life? It was a little different from the original plan, but she could modify it a little. Sitting on the swing, Feng Wu closed her eyes and tried to think of a solution. The Hua clan, the Zhua family, and all those spiritual overlords. Plans popped up in Feng Wu's head one after another, but they were all rejected. Time was running out. The Hua clan would make their move tonight. 1 spiritual sage and 15 spiritual overlords. No, it was very likely that the Zhua family would also take advantage of the situation. In that case, 2 spiritual saints and 30 spiritual overlords would all come to the Feng clan. Standing on the roof, Feng Wu watched the children play in the Feng clan. She saw the teenagers fooling around, Granny Zhao washing clothes, Uncle Chiu fixing the carriage, and, if she couldn't stop them, the Feng clan would disappear from this world forever. Just then, Feng Xiaoqi ran out. "Sister, what's wrong? Why do you look so worried?" Ring Wu, Lan, Si-Tin Aramui Mat Tini Hua Ramui Anami Luo Ramui not joined forces to attack the Feng clan. They only thought that Feng Wu was being hunted down by the spiritual overlords. "Kiddo, are you in trouble now?" Holding her sword, the white fairy stood on the wall and looked down at Feng Wu. Feng Wu glanced at her and said, "I saw Chu Tian Xiao." "What?" The arrogant white fairy jumped off the wall and ran up to Feng Wu. "What did you say? Say it again. Where's he? Tell me now." Feng Wu snapped. "Didn't you sell yourself to me for 100 years? Protect me for 100 years first." Chapter 3579. Chapter 3579. Change of Plan 4. Chapter 3579. Change of Plan 4. The White Fairy said, "Do you have a death wish?" The White Fairy didn't care about anything else, but Chu Tianxiao was a thorn in her side, and no one could disrespect him. Feng Wu said grumpily, Fine. I won't bring it up again." The White Fairy said, "Tell me." Feng Wu said, "I can find out about my 3rd senior brother, but you have to help me with something first." The White Fairy stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu shrugged. "My entire clan is going to be wiped out. Do you TN1 and K1 still care about your love life?" The White Fairy agreed. "Go ahead." Feng Wu whispered something in her ear. The White Fairy frowned. Feng Wu smiled. "If you don't do it, I may never live to see the sun again. If that happens, you'll probably never see my 3rd senior brother." The White Fairy said grumpily, "That's all I'm going to do for you. I can't do anything else. I haven't recovered much yet." Feng Wu immediately said, "All right." As soon as Feng Wu talked to the White Fairy, Little Phoenix prompted her. "Xiao Wu, have you thought of something? The old lady is really going to destroy the Feng clan tonight." Feng Wu said, "Don't worry. I have my own plan." Hearing that, Little Phoenix was a little relieved, but it was still a little confused. What idea had the girl come up with? Yu Minji asked Feng Wu what happened. Feng Wu then told him about how the old lady was going to attack the Feng clan with all her might. Yu Minji was astonished. Yu Minji asked, if the Hua family wants to take down the Feng family, what about the Zhou family? Will they join hands? Feng Wu said, that's possible. Yu Minji said, so, sister, is that true? Feng Xiaoqi didn't know about it before, but he was shocked now. Feng Wu looked at Feng Xiaoqi and nodded solemnly. Feng Wu didn't plan to let her family know if the battle hadn't come to the Feng clan, but now she had to inform them in advance. What should we do now? Xiaoqi wasn't the only one who heard it. The rest of the family came out as well. Xiuling, Granny Zhao, Uncle Qiu, Chaoga, Feng Sun. Feng Wu said, don't worry, I figured it out. We'll be fine. But what choice did they have? The others only thought that Feng Wu was comforting them. According to Feng Wu, there were 2 spiritual saints and over 30 spiritual overlords. How are they supposed to fight this war? It would be much faster to just lie down and accept their fate. Feng Sun wanted to say something, but hesitated. In the end, he said, let's tell my father. He's a spiritual saint. Feng Wu turned to Feng Sun with a stern look on her face. No, Feng Sun said, but Feng Wu shook her head. I suspect that the Dongsang kingdom knows, which is why their attack became more ferocious, and even Feng has gone to the battlefield. That's why father and Feng couldn't come back. Otherwise, Nest would be destroyed. Feng Sun didn't know what to say. Feng Wu said, don't worry. Have some faith in me. I'm not that easy to kill. She gave Feng Sun and Yu Minji some instructions. Everyone started working according to Feng Wu's plan. Chapter 3580. Chapter 3580. Spirit Diagram Sword. Chapter 3580. Spirit Diagram Sword. Feng Wu sat in her room and examined the details of her plan. According to Feng Wu's original arrangement, Hua Wushuang would be very useful. She wanted to have the Zhou family kill Hua Wushuang in front of the old lady, but since things had changed, so be it. She had other plans. The Zhou family, the Hua family, and the spiritual overlords. Did they think that Feng Wu didn't have a card up her sleeves? Feng Wu rubbed the booklet in her hand and smiled a little. Just as the powerful cultivators of the Hua family gathered around, ready to take care of the Feng clan tonight, a piece of news quietly spread among the other spiritual overlords. The legendary master Mu Jiuzhou's spirit diagram sword had appeared in the Hua family. Oh God! The news spread like wildfire among the spiritual overlords. God Mu, he used to be the ruler of this continent. He was once the most capable man that ever lived. When he was young, he used the spirit diagram sword, which was an invincible cultivation technique. He had never lost a battle. But now, the spirit diagram sword was in the Hua family's treasure vault. Who spread the rumor? It had to be the Zhou family. The spiritual overlords asked the Zhou family for information, but the latter denied it. The more they denied it, the more suspicious they looked. Just then, someone leaked the information that the Zhou family had detained Hua Wushuang, and the information on the sword technique was from her. The Zhou family had detained Hua Wushuang. Hua Wushuang was the heir to the Hua family. Soon, the news spread like wildfire. However, only got around among the capable cultivators, and ordinary people didn't know about it. But all the influential families had heard the news. They were all talking about it. Why did the Zhou family want to detain Hua Wushuang? The more they asked, the more interesting it became. The Hua family and the Zhou family had put in a lot of effort to suppress the incident between Hua Wushuang and Zhou Qingxi, but the spiritual overlords were intrigued and had to ask around. They could catch an insider, hide behind a bush, and press a dagger to the latter's throat to interrogate them. There was a very nimble person among the itinerant cultivators called Bukong. Bukong was well-connected and was the first to hear the news. He wasn't alone. He also had a friend, the black and white priest. In the inn, Bukong said, "It's true. I've asked around. The Zhou family has indeed detained Hua Wushuang." The black and white priest asked, "Why did the Zhou family detain Hua Wushuang? Aren't they afraid that the Hua family will take revenge?" Bukong said, "What happened was quite interesting." Bukong then described what he had heard. The Hua family and the Zhuo family may be friends on the surface, but they've already become enemies. The priest said so. The Hua family really might have a spirit diagram. Sword. Bukong said, "The information sounds real. Not only is there a message, but there's also a map. Look at this treasure room. It looks like a real place." After that, he showed the map to the priest. Seeing this, the priest nodded and said, "That's right. It's real. And the inscriptions." Bukong said, "And I found Hua Wushuang in secret and forced her to make a move. She really used the stance from the spirit diagram sword. She really used it." Chapter 3581. Chapter 3581. Spirit Diagram Sword 2. Chapter 3581. Spirit Diagram Sword 2. The black and white priest jumped to his feet. "Are you sure?" Bukong's eyes widened in excitement. "Absolutely." The black and white priest said, "Great. We're going to have this spirit diagram sword. Although it was Master Mu's swordplay when he was younger, it'll benefit us for the rest of our lives if we can learn even one stance from him." Bukong said, "That's right. I thought the same. We have to get the spirit diagram sword. We should." Bukong and the black and white priest whispered to each other and soon came up with a plan. As for Feng Wu, when the spirit diagram sword was involved, no one would care about Feng Wu anymore. Firmament Palace's reward? Forget about it. The news soon reached the Hua family. Mrs. Hua heard the news right away and was dumbfounded. What spirit diagram sword? The Hua family didn't have the spirit diagram sword. If the Hua family had it, they would have taken off already. She wouldn't have to come all the way to the Imperial capital just to fawn on the Empress Dowager. And she frowned. But the rumor out there is so vivid. There's even a map of the treasure room. It has everything. "Show me." Mrs. Hua didn't panic when she heard the news. She only picked up the map. Her two sons were standing next to her. The news came from her eldest son. After reading the map, Mrs. Hua was lost in her thoughts. Master Hua said anxiously, "Our vault is so well hidden. Who could have spread the rumor? It couldn't have been Wushuang. She doesn't even know this place, let alone how to get in." The other Master Hua said, "How many people know how to get in?" Mrs. Hua felt a headache coming on. Zhuo Qingfeng had been there before. Could it be him? After some thought, Mrs. Hua decided that Zhuo Qingfeng was the most likely suspect. What was his motive? He wanted to destroy the Hua family without getting his hands dirty. Just like how she tried to kill Feng Wu to frame Zhuo Qingfeng. Zhuo Qingfeng was going to do the same to the Hua family. Those spiritual overlords had become an influential force. "You're so cruel." Mrs. Hua gritted her teeth. It was true that Mrs. Hua didn't like Feng Wu and wanted to destroy the Feng clan. But that wasn't the main problem anymore. To Mrs. Hua, her conflict with Zhuo Qingfeng had just risen to the top of her list. The most important thing now was to solve the problem of the spiritual overlords brought by the spirit diagram sword. "Mother, are we still going to attack the Feng clan tonight?" Master Hua asked Mrs. Hua. Mrs. Hua's face was livid. She couldn't for the life of her figure out why so many problems would pop up in the middle of her plan to kill Feng Wu, someone as weak as an ant. She just couldn't bring herself to do it without solving the other problems. "We'll spare her life for now." Mrs. Hua frowned. "Our top priority now is the Zhuo family and those spiritual overlords." Master Hua said, "Mother, shall we kill them all?" Mrs. Hua glanced at him. If it was only the Zhuo family or the spiritual overlords, she could still fight them. But now Mrs. Hua didn't know if they had joined hands. Chapter 3582. Chapter 3582. Spirit Diagram Sword 3. Chapter 3582. Spirit Diagram Sword 3. That malicious old man. Mrs. Hua decided to kill Zhuo Qingfeng first. Otherwise, Who knew what more trouble this malicious old man would create? Once Zhuo Chengfeng was dead, those spiritual overlords would no longer be a threat. Mrs. Hua happened to know that Zhuo Chengfeng had been injured by Jun Linyuan and had yet to recover his strength. Mrs. Hua told her plan to her eldest son and let him carry it out. She went to the Zhuo family on her own. Wow, little Phoenix shouted in Feng Wu's head in excitement. Feng Wu, you're amazing. That old lady really left according to your plan. She really has decided to kill Zhuo Chengfeng first. She also told her son to spread the news that the spirit diagram sword indeed exists, but it has been stolen by the Zhuo family. It's in the Zhuo family now. Wow, the Zhuo family is in so much trouble. And you know what? That old lady, she's trying to seduce Zhuo Chengfeng. Gosh, I need to catch up with her and see what she can do. I'll send you the latest update. Feng Wu only let out a breath of relief when she heard what little Phoenix said. Finale. She changed the battlefield from the Feng clan to the Zhuo family. She couldn't care less about the outcome of the battle. However, if the battle took place in the Feng clan, even with the formations and traps she had set up, they might not be able to withstand it. If formations were that powerful, the war in the Peace Grassland wouldn't have lasted so long. Let's go to the Zhuo family and get ready. Mrs. Hua had no idea that everything she did was under Feng Wu's control. The Zhuo family thump. Zhuo Qingfeng smashed his cup. Father. Zhuo Ming's forehead was covered with cold sweat. Everyone is saying that the Zhuo family has robbed the Hua clan's treasure room and stole the spirit diagram sword. Zhuo Chengfeng asked, have you found out who leaked the information? Zhuo Ming said, it was the Hua family. Bukong told me himself. Bukong was a spiritual overlord, and Zhuo Ming had been trying to befriend him. After a pause, Zhuo Ming went on. Father, Bukong asked. Zhuo Chengfeng asked what? Zhuo Ming said he asked if the spirit diagram sword really is here and if he could borrow it. Zhuo Chengfeng said, bastard. Zhuo Ming broke into a cold sweat and was a little flustered. He didn't know if his father was scolding Bukong or himself. Zhuo Ming felt uneasy. He met Bukong when he was young, and they were about the same level. However, after a few decades, Bukong had reached the peak of the spiritual overlord stage, and Zhuo Ming hadn't become a spiritual overlord yet. The difference between them was like heaven and earth, and Zhuo Ming was overwhelmed with guilt. Zhuo Chengfeng coughed into his hand. Zhuo Ming went up to him in a hurry. Father, Zhuo Chengfeng waved his hand. Don't worry about it. Crossing his hands behind his back, he strolled around in the courtyard, and the look in his eyes grew grimmer. Mrs. Hua had crossed the line. They had agreed to destroy the Feng clan together. It wasn't that the Feng clan was so powerful that they had to work together to destroy it. Zhuo Chengfeng was only worried about Jun Linyuan's revenge. Therefore, he tried to drag the Hua family down with him and was going to blame everything on the Hua family. Chapter 3583. Chapter 3583. Spirit Diagram Sword 4. Chapter 3583. Spirit Diagram Sword 4. Afterward, if Jun Linyuan wanted to take his revenge, he would have to be Hua Royue. However, after what happened at the birthday banquet, Zhuo Chengfeng didn't expect such a turn of events. Hua Wushuang had ruined everything. Zhuo Chengfeng thought that someone was behind it first, but when he caught Hua Wushuang and searched her memory, he found out what she did. When he saw the scene where she cut off Zhuo Qingshi's member, Zhuo Chengfeng was furious. What Zhuo Chengfeng didn't know was that Feng Wu had deliberately left that memory in Hua Wushuang's head. Feng Wu had set up all these traps, and they were all working now. Zhuo Chengfeng now believed that Hua Wushuang had killed Zhuo Qingshi on purpose, and Zhuo Qingshi was the only direct descendant of the Zhuo family now. What was more, no one knew that Zhuo Chengfeng had been raising and teaching Zhuo Qingshi all these years. Zhuo Qingshi was even more talented than Zhuo Qingwan, who had true phoenix blood. But now, Zhuo Qingshi was dead. Zhuo Qingfeng had lost all hope. Hua Wushuang. Several times, Zhuo Chengfeng wanted to throttle Hua Wushuang to take his revenge, but he fought back his impulse. But now, the Hua family had made a scene again, saying that Zhuo Chengfeng had entered their treasure room and stolen the spirit diagram sword. Zhuo Chengfeng was so angry that he left. When he tried to set Hua Royue up, she tried to set him up as well. Come to think of it, Hua Royue must have learned about what happened back then. That abominable old woman. How dare she put on a show in front of him? She hated him so much, but she was still drinking tea with him and talking about working with him. She was such a good actress. Father? Father? Zhuo Ming saw his father's livid face and grim eyes. The look on his father's face was murderous at times, and he would smile maliciously. Zhuo Ming was frightened. Zhuo Chengfeng looked at Zhuo Ming in frustration. His good-for-nothing son had yet to become a spiritual overlord. Bring Hua Wushuang here. I'm going to investigate her again. Zhuo Chengfeng frowned. Does she have the spirit diagram sword on her? Zhuo Ming rushed out. The spiritual diagram sword was too important to be missed. After Zhuo Ming left, a figure landed in the courtyard. Zhuo Ming turned around and saw that it was Hua Royue, the old lady of the Hua family. Here we go. With its invisibility ability, Little Phoenix followed Mrs. Hua all the way from Hua Manor to the Zhuo family, but no one noticed it. Neither of the two spiritual saints could see the bird. The invisibility spell was Little Phoenix's natural skill, and Master Mu had created the spiritual concealment technique for it. Therefore, when Little Phoenix activated the skill, even a spiritual saint might not be able to detect it. For instance, Zhuo Chengfeng and Mrs. Hua sat opposite each other with a stone table between them. The bold Little Phoenix turned invisible, activated its spirit concealment technique, and lay down right on that table. Zhuo Chengfeng smiled when he saw Mrs. Hua Royue, you're here. Hua Royue stared at Zhuo Chengfeng with an indifferent look on her face. Raising her chin, she glanced at Zhuo Chengfeng in an arrogant manner. Oh my! Little Phoenix complained to Feng Wu right away. I've come to the Zhuo family with the old lady. Gosh, she's doing great. She's treating Zhuo Chengfeng as if she's the most beautiful woman in the world. I'm telling you, Zhuo Chengfeng used to follow her everywhere. Chapter 3584. Chapter 3584. Instant Change 1. Chapter 3584. Instant Change 1. Feng Wu was speechless. Which is more important, your life or gossip? Little Phoenix said, I love life as much as I love gossip. Zhuo Chengfeng smiled at the old lady. Royue, what's wrong? I'm not mad at you yet. And you're mad at me already? Mrs. Hua smirked. Mad at me? Who gave you the right to do that? Zhuo Chengfeng's face darkened a little. Qingxi is dead. Why do you think I'm mad at you? I have a lot of grandchildren, but most of them have died over the years, and I've trained Qingxi in secret. Don't you know that? The old lady said, I didn't kill your grandson. Zhuo Chengfeng didn't reply. Old Mrs. Hua frowned. I didn't kill Zhuo Qingxi. You know my medical skills. There was no way that I couldn't cure him. Zhuo Chengfeng smirked. That's right. You're such a great doctor. How can my Qingxi be dead? Was he suggesting that she was the culprit? Old Mrs. Hua smacked the table. Zhuo Chengfeng, are you slandering me now? Is that how you talk to me? Zhuo Chengfeng smirked, but didn't say anything. Old Mrs. Hua didn't know what to do. Back then, Zhuo Chengfeng was in love with her, but they were both old now, and it was possible that he had a change of heart. Old Mrs. Hua softened her tone and said earnestly, I didn't expect that Zhuo Qingxi's wound would burst open. I couldn't stop the bleeding. It was as if someone had tampered with it. Zhuo Chengfeng said, your granddaughter was the only one who had made contact with him before you. Mrs. Hua almost choked. It seemed that Zhuo Chengfeng was convinced that the Hua family had done it. Old Mrs. Hua said, why would I kill him? We've only just agreed to work together. Why should I create such trouble? If it hadn't been for that, we would have destroyed the Feng clan by now. I have reason to believe that the Feng clan is behind this and is trying to drive a wedge between our families. The more she said, the more convinced she became. Zhuo Chengfeng, on the other hand, found the old lady's suggestion idiotic. Mrs. Hua asked, "You don't believe me?" Zhuocheng Feng said, "Are you an idiot? If the Feng clan really can do that, do you think we can destroy them so easily? Everyone says you're smart and resourceful, but why do I find you so retarded?" Old Mrs. Hua was so angry that she almost choked. Zhuocheng Feng smirked again. "You're only putting on airs because I used to be in love with you. Hua Royue, we're both old enough to have grandchildren. Don't you think you're overdoing it by acting like a teenage girl?" Old Mrs. Hua almost had a stroke. Little Phoenix was thrilled. It was very talented in simulation, so it sent the conversation between Mrs. Hua and Zhuocheng Feng back to Feng Wu in their own voices. Feng Wu smacked her forehead. "What an interesting old lady." Mrs. Hua was very flexible. Seeing that her plan wouldn't work, she changed her attitude. "All right, if that's the case, let's talk like one head of the clan to another." Sitting ramrod straight, Mrs. Hua stared at Zhuocheng Feng. "There's only one way to prove the innocence of the Hua family. An autopsy. I'll need to examine Zhua Qingxi's body." Zhuocheng Feng stared at Mrs. Hua. Mrs. Hua had never been so serious. She stared at Zhuocheng Feng and said, "The only way to resolve the misunderstanding between our families is to examine his body." Chapter 3585. Chapter 3585. Instant Change 2. Chapter 3585. Instant Change 2. Ming went to see Hua Wushuang. However, he didn't expect Hua Wushuang to be meeting someone at this moment. To be more precise, someone was meeting Hua Wushuang. It was none other than Feng Wu. Feng Wu put the moves from the spirit diagram sword into Hua Wushuang's brain in a special way. In fact, it was just a few feigned moves, not real ones. Feng Wu had always had the spirit diagram sword, but her beautiful master had told her that she could only dapple on it, but shouldn't go too deep. There was something wrong with the cultivation technique, which would damage her foundation and reduce her lifespan. That was why her beautiful master had given Feng Wu the spirit diagram sword as a reference book and didn't allow her to study in private. Feng Wu only treated it as an extracurricular book and never thought that the spirit diagram sword was that important. It was only when little Phoenix told her that she might be able to try the spirit diagram sword that Feng Wu took out the cultivation technique. The result shocked her. It turned out that her beautiful master was such a terrifying existence. The spirit diagram sword that he had abandoned in his early years could actually cause an uproar on the continent. So many people jumped at the opportunity like moths to a flame. Feng Wu thought to herself that her beautiful master had asked her to memorize a lot of books back then. Could they all be profound techniques? Feng Wu decided to find some time to study the cultivation techniques she had memorized. Back then, her beautiful master had only asked her to memorize it. He passed out before he had the time to teach her. He still hadn't woken up yet. After infusing 2 moves of the spirit diagram sword into Hua Wushuang's mind, Feng Wu heard something outside and immediately hid herself. Little Phoenix had transmitted the correct cultivation technique to Feng Wu through its brainwaves, so no one would be able to detect Feng Wu now that she had concealed her aura. Squeak! The door was pushed open. Feng Wu saw 2 figures running in. One was a Taoist priest in a black and white robe, and the other was a round-faced, chubby one. Hua Wushuang was locked in a special dungeon. There were formations and mechanisms outside, and ordinary people couldn't enter. Who were these 2 people? Before the 2 of them could reach Hua Wushuang, they forced her to make a move. Hua Wushuang had only just learned 2 moves from Feng Wu, and she used them right away. She didn't have a sword, so she grabbed a wooden stick and pointed it at the 2 of them. Bukong said, "That's the spirit diagram sword." "Brother priest, it's really a sword move from the spirit diagram sword." Black and white priest nodded. "This girl is the living spirit diagram sword. Take her away." "Let's go." Bukong grabbed Hua Wushuang and tucked her under his armpit, while black and white priest led the way. Feng Wu nodded. She knew they were a pair of spiritual overlords because she had been secretly getting people to keep an eye on this group of experts who were prepared to kill her at any time. She recognized these two people. One was Black and White Priest, and the other was Bukong. These two people were very powerful among those spiritual overlords, probably the best among the group. Seeing that they had taken Hua Wushuang away, Feng Wu smiled. That was great. After they left the dungeon, Feng Wu saw they were about to run out. How could she let them run away like this? Her effort would be in vain. In the dark night sky, everything was silent. Feng Wu shouted, "Someone's taken Hua Wushuang and the spirit diagram. Sword. Hua Wushuang has the spirit diagram sword." Chapter 3586. Chapter 3586. Instant Changes 3. Chapter 3586. Instant Changes 3. Feng Wu's words hit the nail on the head. Hua Wushuang had the spirit diagram sword on her, which meant that the Hua family had indeed owned the spirit diagram sword. Now that Hua Wushuang was in the Zhua family's house, did that mean that the Zhua family was interrogating her for the spirit diagram sword? Yong, who was about to jump onto the wall, was shocked. Damn it, who did that? The most terrifying thing was that he didn't see anyone nearby. At this moment, the Zhua family had already discovered the pair. They were rushing in their direction. Bukong threw Hua Wushuang out of the wall. Take her away. However, what shocked Bukong was that after Hua Wushuang was thrown away, she was actually bounced back by a strange force. Bukong was stunned. Wasn't there his men outside to catch her? What was going on? With a thud, Hua Wushuang fell onto a roof. The powerful force collapsed the roof and buried Hua Wushuang. The spiritual overlords of his Zhua family were closing in. Bukong, Black and White Priest, how dare you? Zhuo Ming was infuriated when he saw them. How dare you? Take them down. The current Zhua family was as heavily guarded as a prison. There were 15 spiritual overlords guarding the 4 directions, and 4 of them were following Zhuo Ming. The 4 spiritual overlords rushed forward and surrounded Bukong and Black and White Priest. Black and White Priest told Bukong, "Go get the girl. I'll deal with them." Sure. Bukong immediately rushed toward the collapsed house. At the same time, he shouted to the people outside, "Come and help me. I have the living spirit diagram sword here." The spirit diagram sword was too attractive. Hearing Bukong's words, 3 more people jumped in from the other side of the wall. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. These 3 figures instantly rushed toward the collapsed house. Whoever snatched Hua Wushuang would have the spirit diagram sword. Feng Wu knew that Hua Wushuang was key. She couldn't let her die. There were 3 more spiritual overlords from the Zhua family. Because of the fierce battles, the walls of the Zhua family's houses kept collapsing. Zhua Chengfeng saw all of this. He stared at Mrs. Hua. Hua Royue, is this your so-called innocence? Hua Royue's expression was extremely ugly. She didn't know what went wrong. No matter what plan she made, it was always destroyed before it could be carried out. Hua Royue stared at Zhua Chengfeng. Would you believe me if I said that the people fighting outside weren't from the Hua family? Mrs. Hua had told Hua Huayu, her eldest son, to wait for Aunt Shi's orders. Little Phoenix had already heard that and told Feng Wu. Feng Wu couldn't beat Aunt Shi, but someone else could. She had 2 spiritual overlords with her, and Jun Linyuan had put them by her side to protect her. Now was the time to use them. These 2 spiritual overlords were Gao Gong and Yuan Pan. In the Imperial Guards, they were called General Gao and General Yuan. At this moment, the 2 of them worked together to take down Aunt Shi, who was alone. Feng Wu snuck out of the Zhua family's house. When she saw General Gao signaling her from a dark alley, she left without another word. At that moment, the spiritual overlords and the Zhua family were fighting, so no one noticed her. Moreover, Feng Wu had concealed her aura. "Miss Feng Wu, Aunt Shi is here." General Gao led Feng Wu into a yard. Chapter 3587. Chapter 3587. Instant changes 4. Chapter 3587. Instant changes 4. When he stared at Feng Wu, his gaze was sharp, and he exuded a cold aura. He didn't know how to describe Miss Feng Wu. Ever since General Gao found out about Feng Wu's plan, he had thought that Feng Wu had lost her mind. She wanted to destroy the Zhou family, the Hua family, and the spiritual overlords all by herself. He had done some calculations for Feng Wu. At the end of the day, there were only about 10 spiritual overlords on their side, and their enemies had about 4 times that. How are they going to fight this battle? Therefore, he had always disapproved of it with a cold expression. General Gao felt that he would probably die this time. In such a dangerous situation, Feng Wu couldn't be bothered to make General Gao happy. She went straight to Aunt Shi. Seeing Aunt Shi, Feng Wu smiled. Very good. Aunt Shi was shocked to see Feng Wu, because Feng Wu was herself now and wasn't disguised as anyone else. Feng Wu looked at Aunt Shi, then at General Gao. General Gao was shocked. What do you want? Feng Wu smiled. General Gao, I'm sorry. General Gao was dumbfounded. Feng Wu said, you can be Aunt Shi. Although Aunt Shi was a woman, she was extremely tall and was strong like a man. She resembled General Gao a little. General Gao said, how is that possible? I can't do it. I can't act. Feng Wu sat him down and said with a smile, it's fine. You only have one line. After that, Feng Wu began to apply something to General Gao's face. Aunt Shi had been sober the whole time. She watched as Feng Wu glanced at her from time to time and then continued to apply something to General Gao's face. Before long, a familiar face appeared in front of her. Feng Wu took all the accessories off Aunt Shi and asked her to take off her black clothes for General Gao. Although they were all wearing black clothes, the black clothes of the Hua family were different. In order to identify their own people, there was a secret mark on the collar. Only the Hua family knew. Staring at Feng Wu, Aunt Shi suddenly had an idea. You. It was you. Aunt Shi stared at Feng Wu as if someone had grabbed her by the throat. I can't believe you did that. I get it now. Aunt Shi stared at Feng Wu. You were the one who killed Zhou Qingxi, weren't you? Since you can turn someone into me, you can pretend to be Hua Wushuang. So you're behind what happened to the Hua family in the past 2 days, aren't you? Aunt Shi glared at Feng Wu and gritted her teeth. She didn't need Feng Wu's answer because she had already made up her mind. No wonder my lady can't figure out why Miss Wushuang suddenly became like that. It was all you. Feng Wu smiled and nodded. Aunt Shi asked, you robbed the treasure rooms too? Feng Wu looked at her and nodded. Aunt Shi asked, what about the spirit diagram sword? Is it your doing? Feng Wu looked at her and heaved a long sigh. Why are you so smart? If you're more stupid, I wouldn't have to kill you, but you guessed everything. How could I let you live? Feng Wu looked at General Gao. Kill her. Spiritual overlords had great defensive ability. If Feng Wu wanted to kill Aunt Shi, she might not be able to break through her defenses. General Gao glanced at Feng Wu and stabbed Aunt Shi in the chest without another word. Aunt Shi died on the spot. Let's go. It's time for our war. Chapter 3588. Chapter 3588. Last Resort 1. Chapter 3588. Last Resort 1. General Gao stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. Are you sure you want to continue? Feng Wu said, of course. General Gao. Are you really not afraid of death? Feng Wu gave him an indifferent look. It's better than waiting for them to kill me. General Gao frowned. They can't be bothered to kill you now. Feng Wu said, that's why I'm fighting back. Do I have to wait for them to kill me when they're free? General Gao was rendered speechless by Feng Wu's words. Feng Wu sighed. I'm standing here because I fought for it. If I don't, I'll die. If you don't want to help me. General Gao looked at Feng Wu in frustration. Jun Linyuan had told them to protect Feng Wu with their lives. If you think you can win, then let's fight. I don't believe you, though. General Gao gave Feng Wu one last look and walked out of the yard. led by Master Hua Huayu. The Hua family was lying in an ambush outside the Zhua family's house. And she had gone in to gather information and was accidentally caught by General Gao and General Yuan. When he saw Aunt Shi return, Hua Huayu lowered his voice and asked anxiously, "What's the situation inside now?" General Gao played Aunt Shi, but he couldn't imitate her voice like Feng Wu did, so he lowered his voice and only said one word: "Kill." The Hua family had been waiting impatiently for a long time. When they heard that, they immediately became restless. Hua Huayu thought that Aunt Shi had received an order from Mrs. Hua, so he believed it without a doubt. He raised his sword and pointed it at the sky. Charge! They rushed into the Zhua family's house. At this moment, members of the Zhua family had already lost control from fighting. All the spiritual overlords were fighting fiercely. The Zhua family had more spiritual overlords, so they had the upper hand. Zhua Ming smirked. "Bukong, you'll regret coming to the Zhua family today. You can't come and go as you please." At this moment, Bukong was surrounded by 3 spiritual overlords. He was already injured in many places and was forced into a sorry state. Bukong cursed. "We're just asking for the spirit diagram sword." Zhua Ming, is the Zhua family going to make an enemy of all the spiritual overlords in the world? Zhua Ming said, "The Zhua family doesn't have the spirit diagram sword." Bukong laughed coldly. "Hua Wushuang has it." Zhua Ming said, "Hua Wushuang isn't from the Zhua family." Bukong said, "That's good. Just hand over Hua Wushuang and let us take her away." Zhua Ming said, "No way." Bukong said, "Zhua Ming, we've already spread the news that the Zhua family has the spirit diagram sword through all kinds of channels. Do you think you can keep it a secret? Even if you kill us today, millions of people will covet the spirit diagram sword in the future. They'll bury you all." Zhua Ming was so angry that his eyes turned red. He would never have thought that bringing Hua Wushuang back would bring him so much trouble. At this moment, he really wanted to throw Hua Wushuang out. But the spirit diagram sword. Bukong and the others were greedy, but wasn't the Zhua family. The Zhua family also wanted the spirit diagram sword. Zhua Ming thought he could always defeat Bukong and his people. After that, he could just force Hua Wushuang to write down the sword technique and kill her. Chapter 3589. Chapter 3589. Last Resort 2. Chapter 3589. Last Resort 2. At that thought, Zhua Ming bellowed, "Kill them all. Also lock down the city. No one is allowed to leave the city without the Zhua family's permission. Kill anyone who insists on leaving." Bukong sneered. "It seems that Hua Wushuang really has the spirit diagram sword. Everyone, let's go. Kill Zhua Ming and snatch the swordplay manual." The two sides fought fiercely and suffered countless casualties. There were already over half a dozen spiritual overlords lying on the ground. Most of them weren't from the Zhua family. Almost all of them were injured, but none of them were dead. It was too difficult to kill a spiritual overlord. At this moment, the spiritual overlords who were after Feng Wu were at a disadvantage. Seeing that the situation wasn't looking good, Bukong immediately had the intention to retreat. But at that moment, Aunt Shi rushed in and charged at Zhua Ming. Many people recognized that this was Aunt Shi, who was working for Mrs. Hua. Aunt Shi was fighting Zhua Ming's spiritual overlords. Hua Huayu was instantly anxious. What was wrong with Aunt Shi? They had agreed that they would observe the situation when they came in, and then decide which side to fight against. Aunt Shi shouldn't have attacked Zhua Ming like that. That would expose the Hua family's other cultivators. Zhua Ming's eyes widened when he saw Aunt Shi. He shouted, "The Esther ritual overlords of the Hua family are attacking us. Kill them." Bukong turned around and saw Hua Huayu. He immediately smiled and said, "Why are you so late? Didn't you propose to destroy the Zhua family together? Do you want to be a free rider? Hurry up and attack." Hua Huayu looked at Bukong in shock. What did he mean by that? Why didn't he know that the Hua family had agreed to deal with the Zhua family together with these people? They had agreed to destroy the Feng family together. But before Hua Yu could explain, Zhuoming took Bukong's words seriously. Aunt Shi had rushed in to kill him first, and then there were Bukong's words. Zhuoming had no choice but to believe him. The Hua family. We were wrong about you. Kill the Hua family's spiritual overlords. Kill them all. Don't let anyone off. The situation changed, and all the spiritual overlords joined forces with the Hua family to fight against the Zhou family. Fortunately, the Zhou family had mobilized many experts from the clan in Jinyang province this time. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to withstand the other party's attack. In the Zhou family's yard, Zhou Qingfeng stared at Mrs. Hua, who was sitting opposite him. The look in his eyes was terrifying. Hua Royue, is this the collaboration between the Zhou family and the Hua family you're talking about? Mrs. Hua was stunned. She had indeed asked Aunt Shi to come forward and join forces with the itinerant cultivators. But how could it be so effective? Was Aunt Shi that capable? But now that things had come to this, there was nothing Mrs. Hua couldn't admit. She smiled and looked at Zhou Qingfeng. Zhou, so many years have passed in the blink of an eye. We're both old. Zhou Qingfeng stared at Mrs. Hua and smiled coldly. What do you want? Mrs. Hua said, why don't we test each other's skills? Zhou Qingfeng stared at her with an eerie gaze. Those sharp eyes seemed to be able to pierce right through her heart. Although Hua Royue said that she wanted to test his skills, what she meant was very obvious. She was going to attack. Zhou Qingfeng suddenly laughed coldly. All right, Hua Royue, did you know it all along? Hua Royue stared at him with a sharp gaze. Know what? Zhou Qingfeng said, about your husband. Hua Royue stared at him and nodded slowly. Yes. Chapter 3590. Chapter 3590. Last Resort 3. Chapter 3590. Last Resort 3. Zhou Qingfeng, I knew it. No wonder you're attacking the Zhou family today. You're taking revenge for your husband. That's right. Your husband actually loved you very much. I deliberately took him to the brothels to have fun. I also deliberately tricked him into getting drunk, and he ended up drowning in the Qinyang River. I didn't expect you to find out about the secret I did back then. I thought I could hide it from you for the rest of my life. Mrs. Hua's expression remained calm. So it really was you. Zhou Qingfeng's expression changed slightly. You didn't know at first? Mrs. Hua's gaze was unprecedentedly cold. It doesn't matter if I knew at first. What's important is that I know now. Zhou Qingfeng, you killed the love of my life. I'll skin you alive and drink your blood. With that, Mrs. Hua made the first move. Little Phoenix had been listening on the table, but it didn't want to get hurt, so it went under the table. It told Feng Wu the shocking news in a hurry. Listen, I didn't know there was such a thing in the past. Feng Wu hadn't expected that she would dig up such explosive information when she was just setting the Hua family and the Zhou family up. This was so interesting. Where are you? Why is it so noisy? Little Phoenix asked Feng Wu curiously. Feng Wu said, I snuck into the Zhou family. By the way, where are Mrs. Hua and Zhou Qingfeng? Little Phoenix said, they're fighting in the subspace. If they start fighting here, the Imperial capital will sink. Feng Wu asked, are you sitting idly now? Little Phoenix said, I'm wondering if I should go into the subspace too. Feng Wu said, there's no need for that. With such a blood feud, they'll never reconcile. Let them have their dogfight. By the way, get over here. We're going to do something big. Little Phoenix hid itself and rushed in Feng Wu's direction. I really like what you're saying. When Little Phoenix arrived, it saw Feng Wu heading for a remote yard in the Zhou family's house. It jumped onto Feng Wu's shoulder and asked excitedly, what are we going to do next? Feng Wu said, my job. Little Phoenix looked at Feng Wu in confusion. What was that supposed to be? However, it quickly realized what the answer was. What else could it be? Of course, it was to rob someone's family treasure. Little Phoenix almost drooled. It loved Feng Wu's job. She got what she wanted for free, punished the bad guys, and made a fortune overnight. Where is it? Hey, stupid tiger, find it. Feng Wu had 2 pets. one of which was Little Phoenix. The bird was raised by her beautiful master and would be Feng Wu's flying mount in the future. There was also a cub, which Feng Wu had raised herself and was used as a land mount. Unfortunately, the cub grew too slowly. It was still as small as a kitten, and Feng Wu couldn't ride it at all. Little Phoenix used to have a treasure-seeking skill too, but it had lost its sense after the phenomenal success of the stealth skill. Therefore, Little Phoenix had to rely on the cub's sharp senses and smell. The cub ran ahead of Feng Wu, leading her to the remote yard. Little Phoenix had seen many spiritual overlords fighting on his way to Feng Wu, and many of them were lying on the ground. Chapter 3591. Chapter 3591. Chapter 3592. Chapter 3591. Chapter 3592. Feng Wu followed the cub all the way to the remote yard with Little Phoenix. The cub hopped around on a spot and looked at Feng Wu. Feng Wu knew at once that something was amiss. As expected, when Feng Wu examined it carefully, she realized that there was a mechanism here. After figuring out the pattern, Feng Wu smiled. She couldn't understand why these famous families trusted the inscription so much. The Hua family had used 3 inscription locks, and so had the Zhou family. They were very high-level inscription locks, and Feng Wu estimated them to be at least level 8. The inscription lock could ward off many people, but not Feng Wu. With the Phoenix Pen, Feng Wu had become even more powerful. With a flip of her inscription pen, complicated inscription characters floated out from its tip. The characters fell into the lock one after another in a single file, until the last character. With a click, the inscription lock was opened. Feng Wu then lifted the ordinary-looking wooden board. After the trap door opened, there was an escalator that meandered down. It was so long that one couldn't see the other end. Before Feng Wu could react, the cub had already rushed down the stairs. Excited, Little Phoenix shouted in Feng Wu's head, "I can sense spiritual essence. It's so dense. What's down there?" Little Phoenix didn't wait for Feng Wu's response. It dashed forward as fast as it could and wouldn't stop. Feng Wu rubbed her forehead in resignation. Although she could sense some spiritual essence, she wasn't as sharp as the 2 pets. It was no wonder. They could sense treasures from afar, but she couldn't. Feng Wu restored the wooden board and locked the inscription lock again. Although the Zhou family was busy fighting the Hua family and the factionless cultivators, no one knew if anyone would come here. If this place wasn't restored to its original state and someone else came in, Feng Wu would be doomed if they were spiritual overlords. She walked all the way down the winding escalator. As Feng Wu walked down, the lights on both sides of the wall lit up automatically, and misty rays of light filled the room. Before Feng Wu arrived, she heard a rustling sound as if someone was drinking water. When Feng Wu reached the bottom floor, she found Little Phoenix and the cub sticking out their butts and drinking from the pool. Feng Wu looked around. The ground floor was empty. Apart from the pool, there was nothing else. Feng Wu's attention was drawn to the pond. Feng Wu's eyes lit up. That wasn't a pool of water, but spiritual marrow. The grades of spiritual stones, spiritual liquid, and spiritual marrow were arranged from low to high. The blood source crystal was slightly more precious than the spiritual marrow, but it was also much harder to obtain. At Feng Wu's level, spiritual stones were of little use to her, and spiritual marrow was the best. However, there was too little spiritual marrow around. A spiritual stone mine that could produce half a kilo of spiritual marrow would be considered very rich, but there was at least 50 kilograms of spiritual marrow here. Feng Wu was shocked. She remembered that she had been to the auction house. The price of 1 kilo of spiritual marrow was enough to make her jaw drop. She suddenly had over 50 kilograms here. The cub and Little Phoenix took big gulps, afraid that they would fall behind each other. But they were too. Chapter 3592. Chapter 3592. Breakthrough 1. Chapter 3592. Breakthrough 1. However, they were too young, and their stomachs were too small, so they were soon full. The cub was unwilling to give up. It wanted to drink more, but in the next second, it almost fell into the pool. Feng Wu grabbed it by the tail so that it wouldn't fall in. "Drink, little phoenix," urged Feng Wu. "It'll help you with your cultivation. Maybe it'll help you rise a level." Feng Wu said, "Shouldn't I be refining my body right now? Can I still make a breakthrough?" Little Phoenix said, "Of course you can make a breakthrough. You can always train your body afterward. Besides, we're in a big battle right now. If you improve your strength, you'll be able to stay alive." Feng Wu agreed. Without hesitation, she began to absorb the spiritual marrow in the pool. She opened her mouth, and the spiritual marrow flowed from the pool into her mouth. The pure spiritual essence seemed to have built a thin bridge between the pool and her mouth. Little Phoenix and the cub watched from the side, curious about how much Feng Wu could take. They would rest for now. After Feng Wu finished absorbing it, they would drink as much as they could. If they were too full to drink more, they would pack up everything and take it away. However, their eyes soon widened, because Feng Wu never seemed to stop. There seemed to be a rainbow bridge between the spiritual marrow pool and Feng Wu's mouth, and she kept going. Little Phoenix turned to look at the spiritual marrow pool. The two pets had only drunk less than half a kilo each, and they were already full. They had so much spiritual essence in their systems that their bodies hurt, and they didn't dare drink more. However, Feng Wu, she was still absorbed. She hadn't stopped. The cub widened its eyes and looked at Little Phoenix in shock. So did Little Phoenix. It was unbelievable. They all turned to look at the pool. More than 50 kilograms of spiritual marrow. Little Phoenix felt that Zhuocheng Feng must have spent countless years accumulating it. He had probably wanted to use it for his breakthrough. If he saw this scene, he would be furious. Feng Wu had already absorbed all the spiritual marrow in the pool. Even the last layer stuck to the bottom of the pool was sucked into her mouth. However, her stomach remained flat afterward. No one knew where the spiritual marrow went. Little Phoenix and the others didn't know that Feng Wu was undergoing a drastic change. Feng Wu sat on the ground with her legs crossed and her eyes closed. Her fair face was slightly flushed, and all the interference from the outside world was blocked. All the spiritual essence was turned into spiritual liquid in her dantian. The torrent of spiritual marrow kept washing over it. Her dantian, which was already much sturdier than others, had undergone a strange change at this moment. It actually grew into a white transparent ball the size of a bowl. Other people's dantian was the size of an egg, but Feng Wu's dantian was the size of a bowl. It glowed with a faint golden color. The spiritual marrow was still continuously injected into her dantian, washing it over and over. In the end, there was a buzz. Feng Wu opened her eyes and gave Little Phoenix a strange look. Little Phoenix said, "What?" Feng Wu said, "I'm going to make a breakthrough." Little Phoenix said, "Go ahead." Feng Wu's eyes glittered, and she stared at Little Phoenix. It's not going to be one level. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.